Warrior Lore. Chapter 312. The enchanting woman's bright eyes surveyed the surroundings as she spoke in a clear and loud voice. The auction will be conducted using magnetite. Each bid will be at least 1,000 magnetite. The starting price for the initial Ascension Noble Grade Soul Link pill is 100,000 magnetite. Begin now. 101,000 magnetite. 103,000 magnetite. As the enchanting woman's voice fell, the sounds of bidding immediately rose and fell in succession within the auction house. So it's all starting with magnetite. Du Xiaofu was rather moved as he listened to the rising and falling bids within the auction house. Du Xiaofu was extremely familiar with magnetite. Jin Xingchun had mentioned it back then. When he was in Tianwu Academy, he had plundered quite a few universe bags that contained quite a number of magnetite. Tianwu Academy also had quite a few magnetite mines. Mystic coins were commonly used by the masses, while magnetite was used by almost all cultivators. 1,000 mystic coins could only be exchanged for one piece of magnetite. However, it was difficult to exchange 1,000 mystic coins for one piece of magnetite. Although 1,000 mystic coins was equivalent to one piece of magnetite, no one would be willing to use magnetite to exchange for mystic coins. Magnetite was condensed from the energy of heaven and earth, and could be refined into a considerable amount of energy. In fact, many weapon refinements required the refined essence of magnetite to be added into spirit weapons and talisman weapons. After the magnetite was cut into mystic coins, the energy of heaven and earth would almost completely dissipate. As a result, it no longer had any cultivation value. 263,000 magnetite. In a short period of time, the price of the Soul Link pill had already risen to 263,000 amidst the rising and falling bids. Although the Soul Link pill was a good item, Du Xiaofu still had no use for it at the moment. Moreover, the price also made Du Xiaofu feel somewhat powerless. However, although Du Xiaofu did not have that many magnetite on him right now, it was not as if he could not take out something equivalent to the price of the Soul Link pill. One had to know that the universe bag that Du Xiaofu had obtained from Guyu back then had contained astonishing gains. Although Du Xiaofu did not have the time to open the Qinkuan bag that he had recently snatched from Hua Fankong, one could easily imagine the value of the Qinkuan bag of Hua Fankong, who was a martial marquis and a gang leader at that. Gu Xinyan had already reached the martial marquis realm long ago. Hence, the Soul Link pill was not very attractive to her. The two sat in silence, Du Xiaofu's universe bag. In the end, the soul channeling pill was purchased by a person in a VIP room on the third floor for 380,000 profound stones. The voice seemed to belong to a young man, and Du Xiaofu felt a sense of familiarity, but he didn't pay too much attention to it. Then, the second auction item came out. It was actually a martial skill of the marquis level. The starting price was also 100,000 magnetite. Once again, it caused the auction to madly bid. Even Gu Xinyan was moved, but she held herself back from bidding. You seem to be interested? Du Xiaofu asked Gu Xinyan. There are not many martial skills of the marquis level that can be auctioned. Even in the capital, it is rarely seen. Ordinary clans and factions would treat martial skills of the marquis level as their sect treasure and would not easily take them out. This place is truly worthy of being called the Dark Forest. Gu Xinyan sighed slightly and said softly, however, although martial skills of the marquis level are rare, our academy also has them. If you use points to exchange for them, it is much more cost-effective than auctioning them off. If you encounter some rare martial skills or martial skills that are especially suitable for you, it would be good to buy them. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. The academy also had martial skills of the marquis level. If he used points to exchange for them, it would naturally be much more cost-effective. However, when he thought of his 8 million points that had been deducted, he could not help but feel heartache again. Du Xiaofu watched calmly amidst the rising and falling cries. Du Xiaofu did not place too much importance on martial skills. Martial skills of the marquis level were indeed extraordinary, but due to various reasons, Du Xiaofu was not too interested in cultivating martial skills. What's more, Du Xiaofu didn't have much interest in ordinary martial skills now that he had the mysterious move. His every movement was infused with the mysterious move, and ordinary martial skills couldn't be compared to it. Unless he encountered a martial skill that he liked, it would be a different story. Du Xiaofu quietly watched and listened to the rising price. It was not difficult for him to feel that many people in the auction house had not made a bid yet, especially for the people in the VIP rooms on the third floor. The auction had just begun, and the real good items were at the back. The items that the Mu clan fort had put up now were absolutely extraordinary for ordinary people. However, for those who could enter the VIP rooms, they were not very attractive. Moreover, everyone knew that the focus of this auction was the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. It was estimated that half of the people in the VIP rooms on the third floor had come for the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. Under Du Xiaofu's indifferent gaze, the second martial skill of the marquee level was finally bought by an old man on the second floor at a price similar to the soul-connecting elixir. Then, the third item was put up for auction. It was a set of black-level middle-class physique cultivation method. Physique cultivation methods were rare, and black-level middle-class physique cultivation methods were even rarer. Without a doubt, it caused a frenzied auction. With the cultivation method of the golden-winged rock, Du Xiaofu was naturally unmoved by a set of black-level middle-class physique cultivation method. He did not take it seriously. As he waited, various items were put up for auction. The level of the items was getting higher and higher. Amidst the rising and falling bids, the mood in the auction house began to explode. In such a high atmosphere, many items were sold at extremely high prices. This was definitely a perfect auction for the Mu Clan Trading Company, and it was enough to make a lot of money. When the eighth item was put up for auction, a set of 5-star mysterious level talisman array was put up for auction. The starting price of 1 million black stones was 10 times higher than the starting price of the marquee level martial skill. As the 5-star mysterious level talisman array was put up for auction, there were not many bidders. After all, talisman arrays were only useful to a few spirit talisman masters. However, it did not affect the level of enthusiasm at all. The price of 1 million black stones was immediately put up for auction by the people in the VIP rooms on the third floor. After a few bids, it reached 3.7 million black stones. 3.8 million black stones. Gu Xinyan began to bid. When the price of 3.8 million black stones came out of her mouth, her face did not turn red and her heart did not skip a beat. This caused Du Xiaofu to be slightly surprised. This price was definitely not low. Ordinary people would stop at the sight of it. Seeing Du Xiaofu's slight surprise, Gu Xinyan smiled and said to Du Xiaofu, "This set of talisman arrays is extremely suitable for me. If I can successfully cultivate it, it will increase my strength by a lot." In the blink of an eye, the price of the talisman array was raised to 4.1 million black stones. 4.2 million black stones. Gu Xinyan increased the price once again. She intentionally put the 5-star mysterious level talisman array into her bosom. However, the guests in the VIP rooms around her had no intention of putting it down either. Immediately, a fierce competition began. 325 million black stones, going once. 335 million black stones, going twice. Is there anyone who wants to go higher? After the fierce competition, the price of this 5-star mysterious level talisman array reached an astonishing price of over 5 million black stones. It could be said that if it were not for the fierce competition, the price would definitely not be so high. After the price of over 5 million black stones, the fierce competition began to calm down. This kind of price was not something that many people could afford. 335 million black stones, going thrice. Sold. Congratulations to the honorable guest in the VIP room on the third floor. Finally, the alluring woman on the auction stage made the final decision. She raised her head and looked towards the third floor. She nodded respectfully towards the room Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan were in. Congratulations. Du Xiaofu smiled at Gu Xinyan. The price of 5,335,000 was Gu Xinyan's. To be able to call out such a price proved that Gu Xinyan was definitely a wealthy woman. This price is already very high. If it were not for the auction, it would not have reached such a high price. However, to be able to obtain a suitable 5-star mysterious level talisman array, the price is a bit higher. It is worth it. Gu Xinyan smiled faintly. Although the price was extremely high, she did not mind it too much. It was obvious that Gu Xinyan was rather happy to have obtained a 5-star mysterious level talisman array. The items that were auctioned off could be exchanged directly after the auction ended. Next up is the 9th auction item. This item is not ordinary. I wonder if there are any honorable guests with unique eyesight present. On the auction stage, the alluring woman looked around the auction stage with a smile on her face. She waved her hand slightly, and 6 large men slowly carried an item out from the inner sect. They slowly walked onto the auction stage. Seeing the 6 large men carrying an item onto the stage, everyone's eyes were filled with doubt and curiosity. They immediately looked over. The item that the 6 men carried onto the stage was the corpse of a headless demonic beast. It was at least a few feet long, as if it had been hung in a ventilated area for thousands of years after its death. The corpse did not show any signs of decay. Instead, it had been dried by the wind. The demonic beast's corpse was headless, and its body had also been withered by the wind. It was impossible to tell what kind of demonic beast's corpse it was. However, the entire headless demonic beast's corpse was sparkling and translucent. It had been weathered for thousands of years, but it still contained a certain kind of energy and faintly emitted a pressure. For a headless demonic beast's corpse to still contain energy and pressure after so long after its death, this demonic beast's bloodline was definitely not low. It could not be an ordinary demonic beast. Honorable guests, this headless demonic beast's corpse was accidentally obtained by the Mu clan fort a few years ago. After the appraisal of the Mu clan fort master and many spiritual talisman masters, this demonic beast's corpse was at least at the level of a beast emperor when it was alive. It might even be a demonic beast at the top of the heavenly beast list, the alluring woman said as she looked around the auction house. On the last day of the month, brothers, please check the flowers. Don't forget to send them in. After today, they will be invalid. Thank you. Chapter 313. Translator. H2-2 Mr. Heavens. How could there be a beast emperor-level monstrous beast's corpse in the dark forest? A beast emperor's corpse is a precious treasure. A beast emperor's corpse is invaluable. As the enchanting woman finished speaking, there was a sudden uproar in the auction hall. A beast emperor-level monstrous beast's corpse was definitely a precious treasure among precious treasures. This must be an exaggeration. There must be something wrong with this monstrous beast's corpse. Otherwise, the Mu clan fort would never auction off a beast emperor-level monstrous beast's corpse, Gu Xinyan said softly. Du Xiaofu's eyes were fixed on the monstrous beast's corpse. The dried corpse's appearance could not be seen clearly, and it was even more difficult to identify it since it was headless. However, there were some fluctuations of energy contained in the sparkling and translucent corpse, proving that the headless corpse was not an ordinary monstrous beast's corpse. May I ask if the mystic bones and blood essence of this beast emperor-level corpse still exist? On the second floor of the auction hall, a young man in green stood up and asked the enchanting woman on the auction stage. The enchanting woman smiled and said, when the Mu clan fort obtained this monstrous beast's corpse, it was already headless. It was also dried up, so naturally, there was no blood essence. The mystic bones were also long gone. The enchanting woman continued, however, the value of a beast emperor-level monstrous beast's corpse is astonishing. A beast emperor-level monstrous beast is something that even a martial emperor-level powerhouse of the human clan would have to avoid. I'm sure there's no need for me to explain. The beast emperor-level monstrous beast's corpse contains many secrets. If we were to discover some kind of secret skill or beast ability, we would be rich. As the enchanting woman finished speaking, many of the excited gazes in the auction hall immediately cooled down. A monstrous beast's corpse without mystic bones and blood essence had already lost its greatest value. What's more, these were headless skeletons and dried corpses. Even if they fell into the hands of a talisman master, they wouldn't be of much use. The people present were not fools. If they could find any secret techniques or beast skills from the bones of a beast emperor realm demonic beast, the Mu clan's fort would have found them long ago. The demonic beast's bones had probably been studied by the powerhouses of the Mu clan's fort. They could not find any secret techniques or beast skills, which was why they could not put it up for auction. Only in this way could they maximize the profits from the bones. As for whether or not this headless monster's skeleton, which had lost its mystic bones and blood essence, was a real beast emperor's skeleton, that was what the Mu clan fort had said. At this moment, this skeleton had been weathered into a dried corpse, so it was hard to be sure. Of course, it was impossible to say that the bones of these demonic beasts were worthless. Everyone could feel that this demonic beast's bones still contained pure energy even after being eroded by the wind. This was definitely not something an ordinary demonic beast could compare with. Even if this demonic beast's bones were taken home and refined into medicinal liquid for the younger generation to cleanse their bones, it would still be worth a lot. Just as the enchanting woman said, if they could find any secret techniques or beast skills from this demonic beast's bones, they would really hit the jackpot. Even if the people of the Mu clan fort could not find any, it did not mean that others could not. However, if the people of the Mu clan fort could not find any secrets from this demonic beast's bones, the chances of others finding any secret techniques or beast skills from this demonic beast's bones were not very high. It shouldn't be an ordinary demonic beast. Du Xiaofu's gaze was fixed on the demonic beast's bones. With the sharp mind power of a talisman master, he could feel that the headless monster's bones contained a lot of energy and pressure. Du Xiaofu was not sure if this demonic beast's bones were at the Beast Emperor realm when it was alive. After all, it was hard to say, and he had never come into contact with it. However, as the enchanting woman from the Mu clan's trading company had said, this demonic beast's bones were extraordinary when it was alive. Du Xiaofu was sure of this. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu looked at the headless corpse on the auction stage. All of a sudden, the blood in his body started to heat up, and the blood in his body started to tremble for no reason, as if it had been inexplicably touched by something. Du Xiaofu could clearly feel the source of this touch came from within the headless monster's bones. However, the feeling of being touched for no reason did not come from the headless corpse itself. Instead, it came from a secret place within the headless corpse. The aura of that demonic beast's bones seems to be related to that stupid tiger's blood, Du Xiaoyao suddenly said. There was a hint of doubt in her pale golden eyes. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu felt a strange touch from the headless monster's bones. He immediately asked Du Xiaoyao, "Do you know the origin of that demonic beast's bones?" Du Xiaoyao shook her head and said, "I can't recognize it, but I can feel that there is a lot of blood essence hidden within the bones. Ordinary people can't find it at all. This thing is not simple. You should buy it. I feel that if you give it to that stupid tiger, it will benefit it a lot." Du Xiaofu's eyes suddenly lit up. The stupid tiger Du Xiaoyao mentioned was the little tiger. It could benefit the king's scaled demonic tiger greatly. If there was a chance, Du Xiaofu would not be stingy. At this moment, although the headless monster's bones and blood essence had lost most of the people's interest, there were still people who paid close attention to it and wanted to compete for it. The enchanting woman looked at the reactions of the people around her and said at the wrong time, "Distinguished guests, let's start the auction now. The starting price for the bones of a Beast Emperor Realm demonic beast is 1 million magnetite stones. Each bid is 100,000 magnetite stones." So expensive. Originally, there were still many people who were interested. However, when they heard the price, they were immediately disappointed. 1 million magnetite stones could buy several soul-penetrating elixirs. Although the headless monster's corpse was extraordinary, it had lost 90% of its value without the bones and blood essence. They might be able to find some secret techniques and benefits from the corpse, but it was also a gamble. It was a huge gamble, and the odds of winning were obviously not high. Otherwise, the Mu family fort would not have released this mummy. It was possible that they would lose everything in the end. At most, they would only get a pile of mummies to refine for their descendants to cleanse their marrows. Moreover, the price of 1 million magnetite stones was not a small amount. Ordinary forces could not afford it even if they went bankrupt. When the price of 1 million magnetite stones was announced, the auction house suddenly fell silent. This price had exceeded the expectations of many forces who wanted to compete for it. They had no choice but to give up. Do the people of the Mu clan fort really think that others are fools? The headless corpse that they obtained more than 10 years ago did not have any secret techniques or beast energy. Now, they want to auction it for 1 million magnetite stones. In a VIP room on the third floor, a young man in a black shirt looked gloomy and arrogant. He stared coldly at the headless corpse in the auction house. However, he was very interested in the enchanting woman on the auction stage. With a dirty look, he turned around and said to a burly man beside him, "Elder Hu, you're in charge of our Black Demon Trading Company. If there's a chance, poach that woman to our Black Demon Trading Company. What do you think?" "Young master, this woman is called Mushinka. She's a trusted aide of the Mu clan fort. She has a very high position in the Mu clan trading company. It's not easy to poach her." The burly man suddenly looked troubled. "As long as the price is high, there's nothing you can't poach. I believe in you. You must poach her," the young man in black said as he patted the burly man's shoulder. "Yes, I'll do my best." The burly man could only nod his head embarrassedly. A man with a head full of silver hair in another VIP room in the auction house that was momentarily silent was looking down at the headless demonic beast corpse on the auction stage. He spoke to a few people led by a gray-robed man beside him. "Do you think that the corpse is worth 1 million Shin stones?" Other than the gray-robed man, the rest of the people who were led by the gray-robed man were wearing masks. When they heard this, they looked at each other. "I'm afraid it's not worth it. If there's essence blood and secret bones, and it's really at the Beast Emperor realm, it would be difficult to purchase it even with hundreds of millions of magnetite stones. However, that corpse is half useless now. It's worth at most 300,000 magnetite stones." The gray-robed man hesitated for a moment before saying to the silver-haired man. When the silver-haired man heard this, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he softly said, "This demonic beast corpse is not bad. For some special people, it will be of great use. I happen to know a person who is especially interested in demonic beast corpses. When a demonic beast corpse falls into his hands, it will often be of great use. Although 1 million is a little expensive, if you can give it to that guy, you can sell him a favor. It's not a loss at all. 1 million magnetite stones." After a moment of silence, a bid was finally heard from the VIP room on the third floor of the auction house. 1,100,000. Du Xiaofu called out the bid. His gaze also looked at a VIP room not far away from him. He did not expect that there would be someone who wanted this demonic beast corpse. That voice seemed to have a faint familiarity. 1. Inside the VIP room, the gray-robed man wanted to call out another bid but was stopped by the silver-haired man. He said softly, 1,200,000 is too expensive. That favor is only worth 1 million magnetite stones. There's no need for any more." "Yes." The gray-robed man nodded and did not call out another bid. 1,100,000 magnetite stones going once. 1,100,000 magnetite stones going twice. 1,100,000 magnetite stones going thrice. Sold. Congratulations to the esteemed guest above. The enchanting woman made the final decision. Her gaze once again looked towards the VIP room and nodded. She seemed to have received some information long ago and knew that the esteemed guest in the VIP room was different from the others today. "You've made a profit. Your luck is pretty good," Du Xiaoyao said to Du Xiaofu. "I'm afraid that I can feel that the demonic beast corpse is not simple. If nothing unexpected happens, that stupid tiger should be in for a treat." Heh. Du Xiaofu chuckled. Only one person had competed for it once. If the price of 1,100,000 magnetite stones was really not simple as Du Xiaoyao had said, it undoubtedly proved that he had picked up a great bargain. Chapter 314. Moreover, Du Xiaofu also felt that the demonic beast's dried corpse was extraordinary. It was able to stir the blood in its body. That touch made Du Xiaofu feel as if there was an inexplicable and strange life force within the demonic beast's mummified corpse. 1 million magnetite stones could buy a few spirit communication pills. However, at this moment, someone had bought a dried corpse. This immediately caused many people to raise their heads and look over. However, under the cover of the blinds, no one could see clearly who was in the private room. However, it was not difficult for the crowd to know that the two treasures in the VIP private room had already been auctioned off. It was likely that the background of the person was not ordinary. When the demonic beast's dried corpse was once again carried down by the 6 burly men, the enchanting woman looked around under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Her expression was exceptionally serious. At this moment, a burly man with an extraordinary aura slowly walked out from the inner gate. He held a rectangular brocade box that was half the length of a person and half the height of a meter as he slowly walked onto the stage. Around this burly man, the auras of a few Mu clan fort elders were locked onto him at this moment. They were afraid that if there was even the slightest movement in the auction house, the few Mu clan fort elders would immediately take action. Suddenly, when they saw the Mu clan fort being cautious as if they were about to face a great enemy, the entire auction house suddenly became extremely quiet. Many people's eyes immediately surged with passion. It was not difficult for the crowd to know that the 10th auction item was probably the last auction item that everyone had been waiting for today. It was also the finale treasure of the Mu Clan Trading Company's auction this time. It was the rumored mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine. In today's auction house, most of the buyers, especially those with real strength, could be said to be here for the mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine. The mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine, was a precious treasure for refining weapons. It was said that it could be refined into a doctrine weapon. Its value could not even be compared to a 5-star talisman array. There was no cultivator who did not yearn for a doctrine weapon. Having a spiritual weapon could allow one to be invincible among those with the same cultivation base and increase one's strength greatly. Having a practitioner weapon would make it easy for one to kill those with the same cultivation base. However, it was not too difficult for cultivators to obtain a spiritual weapon and practitioner weapon, especially a spiritual weapon at the pulse spirit stage. Even though practitioner weapons were rare, there were still people who possessed them. Some top powers and clans also possessed practitioner weapons. With a practitioner weapon, he would be invincible among those of the same level of cultivation. It would be easy for him to fight against those of a higher level. However, Dao artifacts were too rare. They were so rare that they were akin to legends. It was rumored that with a Dao artifact, one would be able to communicate with and borrow the energy of heaven and earth. When an expert activated a Dao artifact, it was enough to cause mountains to crumble and the earth to crack. With a raise of their hand, they could destroy everything. Killing opponents above their level would be as easy as pie. His strength was unimaginable. The profound spirit Heavenspan Vine was a precious artifact that could be used to refine Dao artifacts. Its value could be imagined. Now, the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine was in the Mu clan's trading firm, in the Dark City in the Dark Forest. In this place where strength was respected, if it were not for the Mu clan fort's strength that could suppress it, it would have been forcefully massacred by the powerhouses. As for the Mu clan fort, they had no choice but to auction the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. News had already spread that the profound spirit Heavenly Vine was being auctioned in the Mu clan's trading firm. If the profound spirit Heavenly Vine was directly purchased by the Mu clan fort, it would be a crime to possess such a precious item. The Mu clan fort would immediately become the target of a joint attack by various forces. One could imagine the consequences. Everyone's burning gaze was fixed on the brocade box. Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan were no exception. The purpose of their visit today was the profound spirit Heavenly Vine. On the auction stage, the enchanting lady's face was extremely solemn. Her bright eyes swept across the burning gazes of the crowd. She said, "Distinguished guests, I believe everyone has already heard about the last item of today's auction. That's right, it's the profound spirit Heavenly Vine, a material used to refine Dao artifacts." As soon as she finished speaking, the enchanting lady waved her hand slightly. The brocade box in the burly man's hand immediately opened. Whoosh! In an instant, dazzling rays of light spread out from the brocade box. The rays of light soared into the sky, making the entire auction stage look like a dream. Energy fluctuations rippled in the air. At that moment, countless gazes ignored the dazzling rays of light and immediately fixed their gazes on the brocade box. There was a green vine within the brocade box. Its entire body was sparkling and translucent, and it was slightly curled up. However, One could see that the curled green vine was around 3 meters long. Its surface was wrapped in mysterious talisman markings, and it slowly wriggled like a living creature, as if it possessed intelligence. However, at that moment, there seemed to be some kind of restriction set up in the brocade box. The green vine wanted to break the restriction, but it was unable to do so. Du Xiaofu looked down at the profound spirit heavenly vine in the brocade box and murmured softly, "Is that the profound spirit heavenly vine? It should be the profound spirit heavenly vine. It was found in the celestial stone mine of our academy. It is a peculiar existence. It looks like a demon, but it is not a demon. It is used to refine Tao artifacts." Gu Xinyan's beautiful eyes, which were covered by a red veil, were looking at the profound spirit heavenly vine in the brocade box below. There were some fluctuations in her eyes. The profound spirit heavenly vine. It has finally appeared. Along with the appearance of the mysterious spirit heaven vine, the entire auction house was in an uproar. This included the VIP rooms on the 3rd floor. Many auras that had been calm all this time seemed to have suddenly awakened. Their auras fluctuated and landed on the mysterious spirit heaven vine on the auction stage one after another. On the auction stage, the brocade box was only opened for a moment before it was closed again. The multicolored light disappeared and the energy calmed down. The noisy auras in the entire auction house gradually calmed down. Only then did many of the increasingly heated gazes slowly fade away. Because the profound spirit heavenly vine's value is immeasurable, there is no reserve price and no limit. Distinguished guests, the auction for the profound spirit heavenly vine will now begin. The enchanting woman's bright eyes immediately scanned the surroundings. Unexpectedly, the auction house, which had been bustling with noise, fell into silence. No one bid. No one knew how much the profound spirit heavenly vine was worth, nor did they know how to bid. Those with brains knew that without absolute strength, even if they obtained the profound spirit heavenly vine, they would not need to leave the dark city. Once they left the Mu family trading company, they would immediately be torn to pieces. 10 million Xian stones. I bid 10 million Xian stones. A VIP room that had previously bought a soul channeling pill directly called out a bid of 10 million. The voice was unruly. 10 million profound stones was definitely an enormous sum. As the bid of 10 million Xian stones was called out, the entire quiet auction house was in an uproar. Everyone's gazes were cast towards the VIP room that called out the bid. TSK, who dares to fight with me? The profound spirit heavenly vine is mine. In the VIP room, a young man in black sneered. Who would dare to fight with him in the dark city? Looks like he's a strong opponent. Du Xiaofu's gaze also looked towards the VIP room that called out the bid. The voice that called out the bid made Du Xiaofu feel a sense of déjà vu. 11 million. Suddenly, a bid came from the 1st floor of the auction house. A bid of 11 million Xian stones came from the 1st floor of the auction house. A person who could pay such a price was definitely not an ordinary person. However, it was a little strange that the person was sitting on the 1st floor. With doubts in his heart, Du Xiaofu's gaze immediately looked down. Du Xiaofu looked over and saw that the person who called out the bid was a gray-robed elder. His expression was indifferent and his eyes were bright. However, he looked very normal and had a lazy appearance. It was as if he had been dozing off and had just woken up. Oh no, this is troublesome. When Du Xiaofu saw the gray-robed elder who called out the bid, his expression changed drastically. Seeing this, Gu Xinyan asked Du Xiaofu in confusion, "Do you know that person?" "You can say that I know him. He's a very terrifying person. Looks like he's also here for the profound spirit heavenly vine." Du Xiaofu's changed expression immediately returned to normal. No matter what, he had to obtain the profound spirit heavenly vine today. 12 million Xian stones. 13 million Xian stones. 14 million Xian stones. Following the gray-robed elder's words, another bid came from the VIP rooms on the 3rd floor. 20 million Xian stones. In the private room where the first bid was made, a bid of 20 million profound stones was called out. Huff huff. After the bid of 20 million Xian stones was called out, the entire auction house fell silent once again. There were even quite a few gasps. This price was indeed very frightening. After the price of 20 million Xian stones was called out, the several people who called out the bid earlier did not call out any more bids. It looks like quite a few people are determined to get it. In a VIP room, a silver-haired man looked down with a calm gaze and a smile on his lips. 20 million Xian stones. I'm afraid that not many people will bid higher. Do we need to call out a bid? The gray-robed man asked the silver-haired man respectfully. There's no need. What belongs to us will return to us sooner or later. Let's not interfere. The silver-haired man smiled faintly. 20 million Xian stones. Is there anyone who wants to bid higher? After a short period of silence in the auction house, the enchanting woman looked around with her bright eyes and asked an untimely question. Everyone in the auction house looked at each other. This price was not something that anyone could afford. Besides, so what if they could afford it? Everyone knew that even if they obtained it, they would definitely be attacked by countless people. Whether or not they could successfully escape was an absolute risk. Huff! Inside the VIP room, Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. The price of 20 million Xian stones was enough to make one's heart jump. However, he immediately opened his mouth and slowly said, I bid 20 million and 1 Xian stones. Following Du Xiaofu's bid, the gazes of the entire auction house trembled as they all looked over. 20 million and 1 Xian stones. Of all the bids, that fellow actually only bid 1 Xian stone more. He was clearly doing it on purpose. Chapter 3:15. You want to bid for the profound spirit heavenspan vine? Gu Xinyan looked at Du Xiaofu. She didn't know about Du Xiaofu's plan today, nor did she know what Du Xiaofu and the Mu family fort lord had talked about yesterday. But when Gu Xinyan saw Du Xiaofu directly bid 20 million, she couldn't accept such a price. She had already done her best to bid for a 5-star profound spirit heavenspan seal formation. There's no helping it. The profound spirit heavenspan vine cannot fall into the hands of others. She shrugged helplessly at Du Xiaofu. Right now, all she could do was get the profound spirit heavenspan vine for herself. 21 million profound stones. The arrogant voice rang out again. It wasn't hard to tell from the voice that the person calling out the price wasn't in a good mood. 21 million and 1. 22 million. 22 million and 1. 25 million. 25 million and 1. Bids rang out continuously. The arrogant voice was close to exploding with rage. No matter how he bid, the other party would always bid one more profound stone than him. No more, no less, just one more profound stone. This was clearly done on purpose. Everyone's gazes wavered. Everyone was suspicious in their hearts. Could it be that the two people in the VIP rooms had some grudge against each other? Adding one more profound stone. No more, no less. This was clearly a provocation. It had been like this several times. This was clearly an absolute provocation. However, adding one profound stone each time was in accordance with the rules. The auction of the profound spirit heavenspan vine had agreed that there was no limit to the base price or anything else. No one could say anything about it. You over there, what is the meaning of this? Are you doing this on purpose? 28 million profound stones. Add more if you can. From the VIP room, the arrogant voice directly berated Du Xiaofu's room. 28 million and 1. Sir, this is just an auction. The highest bidder wins. Aren't you letting others bid? Du Xiaofu's deep voice rang out. He was in accordance with the rules, so he naturally didn't feel anything was wrong. 30 million. The arrogant voice shouted angrily, his dark gaze shooting out. 30,001. Du Xiaofu once again offered a price. This price was already enough to make one's heart jump. 3. The black-clothed youth flew into a rage and was about to raise the price again. Young sect leader, we can't raise the price any further. The price is already the limit. If you raise it any further, we won't be able to bear it. Within the VIP room, a burly man beside the black-clothed young man had no choice but to pull him back. The price of 30 million had already reached the limit of what they could afford. 30,001 going once, 30,001 going twice. Is there anyone who wants to go higher? 30,001 going thrice, sold. Congratulations to the guest on the third floor for obtaining the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine. The enchanting woman looked towards the VIP room on the third floor. The price of 30 million was definitely the highest price she had ever paid in an auction in so many years. Swish, swish. As the enchanting woman's voice faded, the surrounding gazes uniformly looked towards the VIP room Du Xiaofu was in. Who? Du Xiaofu took a deep breath. But at this moment, the expression on his face turned serious. Using his mental energy, Du Xiaofu discovered several hidden auras spying over. These auras had their eyes on him. If he wanted to escape today, it wouldn't be easy. You really bought it. Gu Xinyan's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. From now on, I'm afraid that trouble will befall us. From now on, you have to listen to me. No matter what the situation is, you have to listen to me. Otherwise, I'm afraid that the mysterious spirit Heavenspan Vine won't be able to return to Tianwu Academy. Du Xiaofu turned around and looked at Gu Xinyan seriously. The beautiful eyes covered by the red veil looked at Du Xiaofu for a while. Then she nodded her head slightly and said gently, "All right, Du Xiaoyao, can you leave for a while? We don't want to attract too much attention." Du Xiaofu asked Du Xiaoyao. "All right." Du Xiaoyao nodded her head. Her translucent pale golden body flickered with light. Then, under Gu Xinyan's astonished gaze, she turned into a palm-sized bronze mountain peak and was kept by Du Xiaofu. When the two of them opened the VIP room's blinds and walked out, the entire auction house's gazes fell on Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. However, Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan's faces were covered by cloaks, so no one could see their faces clearly. As the last mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine was auctioned off, the auction house began to disperse. The guests in the VIP rooms did not miss the opportunity to walk out. Their gazes and concealed auras fell on Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. However, under the cloaks, their faces could not be seen clearly. Not far away, in a VIP room, several figures wearing cloaks and loose robes walked out. The leader was a silver-haired man who looked to be about 25 or 26 years old. His eyes were pitch black, and his gaze swept across Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. This person is so evil. While Du Xiaofu's mental energy probed, he suddenly sensed a pair of eyes. Raising his head slightly, he looked over from under the cloak. The silver-haired man's eyes swept across his body, causing a chill to surge out of his heart for no reason. Those people are related to the Dark Nether sect. They were the ones who attacked us that night. Although they have concealed their auras, I have some means to detect them. Gu Xinyan's voice softly whispered into Du Xiaofu's ear. The Dark Nether sect? Ghost Claw should be related to them. Why would he appear in the auction house? When Du Xiaofu heard this, his gaze immediately became pensive. This did not seem to be normal. Congratulations on obtaining the mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine. Congratulations. An arrogant voice sounded. A black-clothed young man arrived in front of Du Xiaofu. His gaze was gloomy and cold. Du Xiaofu recognized this voice. It was the voice that had been competing with him for the mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine. When he looked at the black-clothed young man in front of him, Du Xiaofu's clear eyes under the cloak suddenly became cold. This young man was not an ordinary person. Du Xiaofu naturally knew him. They had fought more than once. Mu Zhenghao had mentioned Shui Yunming from the Black Fiend sect in the Dark Forest. He had an extremely high position in the Black Fiend sect. He seemed to be the young master of the Black Fiend sect. At this moment, when he saw the people from the Black Fiend sect, the coldness in Du Xiaofu's eyes could not help but fluctuate. However, this was the Mu family's trading company, and there were more important things to do now. He suppressed the coldness in his eyes and said in a low voice, "The mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine is auctioned off. The highest bidder wins." The highest bidder wins? Well, one must have the ability to do so. Don't worry, the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine is still mine. Hee, we will meet again soon. Shui Yunming's gaze was gloomy as he looked at Du Xiaofu. Is that so? When we meet again, I hope you won't regret it. Du Xiaofu said in a low voice, emphasizing every word. You have guts. Let's see who regrets it later. I will definitely grind your bones to dust. You won't get the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. Shui Yunming leaned forward and whispered in Du Xiaofu's ear. Then, his eyes greedily swept over Gu Xinyan's graceful body. In the end, He laughed loudly and left with the people behind him. I also look forward to seeing you again. Looking at Shui Yunming's back, Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with coldness. That person should be the young master of the Black Fiend sect, Shui Yunming. Do you know him before? Gu Xinyan whispered to Du Xiaofu. Kind of. Our relationship is not shallow. A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. He then said to Gu Xinyan, let's not talk about Shui Yunming for now. Let's go to the trading company to get the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine, and then find a way to leave the Dark City. A moment later, in a secluded hall behind the Mu family trading company, a muscular middle-aged man handed 3 Qinkuan bags to Du Xiaofu. He said, the monster beast corpse and the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine that you want are all in the Qinkuan bags. Thank you, Uncle Mu. However, I don't have any Xin stones on me right now. Can I use other things as collateral? Du Xiaofu accepted the 3 Qinkuan bags with a bitter smile. He couldn't take out 1,000,000 Xin stones on him. I've already given you the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine, so why would I care about your 1,000,000 Xin stones? I'll give it to you. Many spirit talisman masters and I have studied the monster beast corpse for more than 10 years, but we have no clue. Although it's extraordinary, it doesn't have any substantial effects. 1,000,000 Xin stones is on the high side. I hope you're lucky enough to research some secret techniques and beasts. The middle-aged man spoke with an imposing and oppressive aura. He was the master of the Mu family fort, Mu Mingqing. Give it to me? Du Xiaofu was rather shocked. 1,000,000 Xin stones was equivalent to several spirit communication elixirs. The Mu family fort was being too generous to him. Since I'm giving it to you, just take it. Mu Mingqing looked at Du Xiaofu and then at Du Xiaofu. He said, you should know that once you leave the Mu family trading company, it will be extremely dangerous. Are you sure you want to do this? Du Xiaofu looked at Mu Mingqing and smiled. He said, if I don't leave the Mu family trading company, I'm afraid it will be extremely dangerous. Thank you for your help, Uncle Mu. Leave the rest to me. You're ambitious. Go. I hope you can succeed. Mu Mingqing nodded and didn't say anything else. Goodbye. Du Xiaofu put away the 3 Qinkuan bags and turned to leave. As Du Xiaofu walked out of the room, several elders and burly men walked in. Lu Linqiao was among them. He said to Mu Mingqing, Fort Master, can this little guy do it? There are too many people outside. I'm worried that someone will make a move before they can leave the Dark City. Brothers, let's start the combo. After you've finished reading, please give us some fresh flowers. Thank you. Chapter 316. Whether or not he can make it through will depend on his own ability, Mu Mingqing said softly. Then, he looked at the crowd and said, Ghost Claw should be here already, right? 30 million profound stones. He naturally came as soon as possible and is waiting inside. An old man said. Before he could finish, Mu Mingqing interrupted. I'll go personally. Looks like Ghost Claw has grown a lot more daring after not seeing him for a long time. In a luxurious little hall, a skinny old man of about 50 years old sat upright. He looked like he was just skin and bones, his eyes sunken deep into his eye sockets. His gaze wavered, revealing a slight sneer. Suddenly, Ghost Claw seemed to sense something and his gaze abruptly turned towards the door. Ghost Claw, long time no see. A hearty voice rang out as several figures slowly walked into the little hall. The one at the front was a well-built middle-aged man with a smile on his face and a calm expression. Ghost Claw's gaze was fixed on Mu Mingqing. The sneer in his eyes instantly froze, and even the expression on his face immediately froze. The corners of his mouth twitched as he opened and closed his mouth a few times. Only then did Ghost Claw speak. Looking at the middle-aged man at the front, his skinny body trembled as he stood up and said softly, Mu. Fort Master Mu, long time no see. Looks like you've obtained quite a bit of benefits recently. You're even willing to auction off the profound spirit Heaven Vine. The middle-aged man was Mu Mingqing. Looking at Ghost Claw, he smiled faintly, causing Ghost Claw's entire body to tremble for some reason. Forcefully suppressing the uneasiness in his heart, Ghost Claw raised his head. His gloomy expression receded and a smile appeared on his skinny face as he said softly, What are you saying? Fort Master Mu. No matter what, I can't compare to Fort Master Mu. 30 million and 1 profound coins. After deducting 20% of the commission, there's still 20 million and 1 profound coins left. Take it. It's all in the profound stone card. You can exchange it anywhere. Mu Mingqing waved his hand and tossed a jade crystal card to Ghost Claw. He smiled faintly and said, "Do you want to check it? Once you leave my Mu family's trading company, everything else has nothing to do with me." Hee. Since Fort Lord Mu is here personally, how can I not trust you? Naturally, there is no need for an inspection. Thank you very much, Fort Lord Mu. I still have some matters to attend to, so I will take my leave first. Ghost Claw put away the dark stone crystal card and wished he could leave as soon as possible. He immediately turned around and left, fearing that he would be stopped by the powerhouses of the Mu fort. Take care. Mu Mingqing smiled. He had no intention of stopping Ghost Claw and allowed it to leave. Big brother, Ghost Claw has always been very cautious. Why didn't he check the magnetite crystal card this time? By the time he finds out, it will be too late for regrets. Lu Linxiao watched Ghost Claw's figure disappear with a smile in his eyes. Mu Mingqing smiled faintly and said, "He has a guilty conscience." When he came to the Mu family trading company, the person he was most afraid of meeting was me. Now that you've seen me, you're naturally worried. The more cautious you are, the more you want to leave. However, once you leave the Mu family trading company, everything will have nothing to do with my Mu family trading company. Outside the Mu family trading company, the people in the auction venue had already dispersed. Although the streets were bustling with people, it was no longer crowded. Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan walked out of the Mu family trading company. They raised their heads slightly and saw that the streets were bustling with people as usual. However, the surrounding streets were shrouded in a strange atmosphere for no reason. Even the tea stall on the opposite side of the alleyway was bursting with business at this moment. There were even many people who could only stand and drink tea. Du Xiaofu's eyes under the cloak could see the busy figures of the old lady selling tea and the little boy in the distance. His expression changed slightly, and he said to Gu Xinyan, who was beside him, "You haven't had a good tour of the Dark City, right?" Gu Xinyan's beautiful eyes under the red veil looked around and felt the strange atmosphere. She said, "Are you still in the mood to walk around?" "Of course, I'll walk slowly. There's no hurry." Du Xiaofu smiled. He did not leave in a hurry. Instead, he slowly strolled on the streets with a leisurely look on his face. Gu Xinyan's delicate body paused for a moment. However, she quickly followed beside Du Xiaofu. The two of them strolled leisurely in Dark City at a leisurely pace. A strange scene immediately appeared on the streets. On the bustling streets, a man and a woman wearing cloaks were strolling leisurely. Behind the two of them, a crowd of people had unknowingly followed them, blocking the wide streets. However, no one was the first to step forward. Those two are actually strolling leisurely. There must be something strange going on. Don't be impulsive. We must not be used as cannon fodder. Wait for an opportunity. Looks like we have become the prey. On the streets, Gu Xinyan did not turn her head. However, she could sense the situation behind her. The more people there are, the safer we will be. No one wants to be the target of public criticism. They are waiting. Du Xiaofu smiled. However, between his eyebrows, there was a trace of seriousness. Time passed slowly. As the two of them strolled, dusk finally arrived. At this moment, the two of them could feel that more and more auras were tightly locked onto them. When the sun had set and the silver dew had just enveloped the dark city, Du Xiaofu raised his head to look at the twilight. In his line of sight, the outline of a vast mountain range appeared in front of him. He immediately said to Gu Xinyan, "It's time. Let's get out of the city. Quick." Whoosh whoosh. As soon as Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the profound qi under their feet surged. Their figures suddenly sped away like lightning. They have started to escape. They want to take advantage of the night to escape into the dark forest. Chase after them. As Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan sped away, an overwhelming aura suddenly erupted behind them. Figures without any scruples, like locusts passing through, chased after Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. Night gradually enveloped the sky. Inside the towering gates of the dark city, two figures wearing cloaks flew out. It was Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. Peng descends to the ninth heaven. An overbearing aura spread out from Du Xiaofu's body. Pale golden profound qi soared into the sky. A pair of rune wings spread out from his back. He flapped his wings and soared into the sky. Like a flash of golden lightning, he flew into the dark forest in front of him. He did not dare to stop for a moment. Whoosh! Profound qi surged. Gu Xinyan soared into the sky. Her graceful figure drew a seductive arc in the air as she chased after Du Xiaofu. Chase after them. They want to enter the dark forest. Inside the gates of the dark city, a large number of figures soared into the sky. Their profound qi erupted as they chased after them. Woo-woo! Oh-wah! In the air, beasts roared. Many huge flying mounts expanded their bodies in the air. Then, they flapped their wings and soared into the sky. However, among the overwhelming number of figures, there were not many who could catch up with the two in front. Undulating mountains and dense forests appeared. From time to time, low roars of beasts could be heard from the depths of the mountains. Enter the dark forest. Follow me closely, Du Xiaofu lightly shouted. In the night, the rune wings flapped and immediately plunged into the dark forest. Whoosh! Gu Xinyan followed closely. Her speed was not slower than Du Xiaofu's. As Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan's figures plunged into the dark forest, an extremely fast demonic beast mount and a dozen figures also entered the dark forest like ghosts. They have indeed entered the dark forest. I'm afraid that they are planning to take advantage of the night to escape. They are a little clever. However, they will still be unable to escape death. Later on, the elders will be happy to help us. Leave the woman alive, but we must obtain the mysterious spirit heavenly vine. Kill the man without mercy. On the back of the flying demonic beast, a black-clothed youth said in a cold and gloomy voice. Killing intent shot out from his eyes. One figure after another plunged into the dark forest and disappeared. Whoosh whoosh, in the distant horizon, several streams of light wrapped in light swept over like rainbows. In a few flashes, they appeared above the dense forest. The light receded, revealing a silver-haired young man standing at the front. His extremely smooth silver hair cascaded down like a waterfall, loosely tied up with a monochromatic ribbon. He had a handsome appearance, and his eyes were as deep as the abyss in the night. Those two have entered the dark forest. Should we make a move now? Behind the silver-haired youth, a man in a gray robe slightly raised his head. Under the gray robe, a long scar on his eyebrows was covered by the hair on his forehead. In the night, his eyes glowed with a gray light, which was particularly strange. Wait until they are together. Kill them all in one fell swoop. The rest has nothing to do with us. The silver-haired youth said, Hee, if that woman is there, you must leave her to me. Beside the man in the gray robe, Ghost Claw's figure was among them. His eyes were gloomy. In the dense forest, Du Xiaofu's rune wings folded behind his back. The qi under his feet surged as he activated the wave-like free steps. His figure shuttled back and forth in the dense forest. He asked Gu Xinyan, who was following closely behind him, Have you felt their presence? Not far ahead. Gu Xinyan said, I think they are waiting for us. Let's go and meet them first, Du Xiaofu said, but his footsteps were not relaxed at all. Be careful. Just as his voice fell, Du Xiaofu suddenly shouted to Gu Xinyan behind him. Suddenly, he threw a punch forward. Chapter 317. Rumble. Pale golden Xian Qi surged as he punched out. A low sonic boom suddenly rang out in the air, and energy blasts accompanied by dazzling runes shot out. Thud thud. Du Xiaofu's figure instantly staggered back a few steps, the ground beneath his feet cracking. His gaze immediately focused on the air in front of him. Following Du Xiaofu's gaze, two elderly men in their 50s leapt out in front of him. One was tall, the other short. Both of their gazes were gloomy, and their blazing gazes were fixed on Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. Initial martial marquee realm. Du Xiaofu looked at the two elderly men in their 50s, one tall, one short. His pale golden eyes rippled with coldness. Du Xiaofu had paid attention to these two people in the auction house. He didn't expect them to be fast enough to catch up with him so quickly. It seemed like these two people had some special means in terms of searching and speed. Hand over the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine, and I'll let you go. The one on the left of the two elderly men stared at Du Xiaofu as he spoke, his aura locked tightly onto Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. If you want the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine, then we'll have to see if you have the ability. As Du Xiaofu's voice fell, the aura of the peak of the complete pulsation realm within his body unreservedly swept out. Xian Qi gushed out from his feet, and his figure pounced towards the elderly man who had spoken like a bolt of purple lightning. Whoosh! At the same time, a red shadow flashed like a ghost. Gu Xinyan made her move, her lithe body pouncing towards the other elderly man. Complete pulsation realm, you're courting death. The elderly man targeted by Du Xiaofu sensed that the purple-robed figure was only at the complete pulsation realm level of cultivation. His tightly furrowed brows immediately relaxed, and a chill spread out from his cold eyes. With a wave of his hand, a fist blasted towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! In front of the fist, Xian Qi wrapped around it, intending to distort space. In the blink of an eye, under the elderly man's sneering gaze, the fist in his hand mercilessly landed on Du Xiaofu's chest. For a cultivator at the perfection level of the pulsation realm to fight with him at the martial marquee realm, that was equivalent to courting death. Not good. The moment the fist landed, the old man seemed to have sensed something. The look in his eyes changed drastically, and he seemed to want to retreat in a panic. Boom. However, it was too late for the old man to retreat. A fist that was wrapped in golden light directly smashed into his lower abdomen. Faint golden talisman runes poured in, and a tyrannical and fierce aura erupted like a volcano. That enormous force easily destroyed his profound qi defense, and the tyrannical enormous force directly surged into his divine watchtower. Qi. In the blink of an eye, the old man's pupils shrunk as if he had seen a ghost. Shock spread out from the depths of his eyes as blood spurted from his mouth. Boom. After that, the old man's body fell limply to the ground. The god's gate in his body had been destroyed by a single punch. His unwilling gaze was filled with fear, shock, and even more terror. Bang! Du Xiaofu swooped down and landed a punch on the old man's head. The old man's head exploded, and he couldn't be more dead. The unwillingness in his eyes was also destroyed. Du Xiaofu took out a chinquin bag from the old man's chest. Die. Not far away, Gu Xinyan's red figure was like a ghost in the night. Runes filled the sky, and a terrifying pressure swept out to suppress the former. In the end, it turned into a dazzling rune light beam and rushed into the old man's body with lightning speed. Boom! The rune beam shattered the old man's meridian spirit that he was about to activate. His body was then sent flying, crashing into a towering tree and breaking it in half. Let's go. There are many people chasing after us. Gu Xinyan looked at Du Xiaofu and saw the old man's corpse on the ground. Her beautiful eyes were stunned, but she didn't dare to delay and immediately left. Whoosh whoosh, just as Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan left, a dozen figures landed. Looking at the two corpses on the ground, their expressions changed. The two dead are the Mingshan brothers. To be able to be killed by those two so quickly, it seems that those two are not ordinary. Someone's expression turned serious. To be able to kill the Mingshan brothers, who were martial lords, so quickly, it was enough to prove that those two were not ordinary. The weather was gloomy during the day, and it had rained last night. There was no moon or stars in the night sky. In the dense forest at night, Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan ran as fast as they could. They used the tall bushes as cover to escape, but it was easier said than done to get rid of the many experts behind them. You can't escape. Hand over the mysterious spirit heaven vine. Whoosh! Following the gloomy voice in the night, a vast aura suddenly shrouded the sky, as if it wanted to freeze the surrounding space. Then, an old man in yellow appeared in front of the two. Martial Lord, Nirvana Realm Expert. Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan both paused for a moment. The aura of the person who came made their hearts tremble. He was already a Martial Lord, Nirvana Realm Expert. Let's work together. The two of them then looked at each other. To deal with a martial lord, Nirvana realm expert, they could only work together. Suddenly, the aura of the two of them surged. Their eyes shone as they planned to work together. With the two of them working together, it would not be easy for the other party to do anything to them. Seems like you two don't plan to hand over the mysterious spirit Heaven Vine, then die. Seeing that the two of them didn't seem to have the intention to hand over the mysterious spirit Heaven Vine, the old man in yellow looked gloomy. He suddenly raised his palm and spun it slightly. A vast rune and chi quickly formed. In an instant, it condensed into a palm print and directly slapped towards Du Xiaofu. Whoosh! The rune surged and the palm print swept. Along the way, there were traces of distortion in the space, as if the space could collapse at any time. A martial lord, Nirvana realm expert, could not be compared to an ordinary person. Facing the palm print, the surrounding space froze for no reason, causing Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan to frown slightly. Just as Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan were about to work together, a cold snort suddenly came from midair. Boom! Then, a sky full of dazzling runes shone over. A terrifying pressure shrouded the sky. A rune energy was like a thunderbolt, crashing down and directly colliding with the former's shocking palm print. Bang! A low and deep muffled sound was emitted. Several towering trees in the surroundings were swept up by the energy force and uprooted. Rumble sounds were unceasingly heard. The ferocious attack was immediately destroyed. The energy force swiftly spread, causing Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan's bodies to immediately retreat. Ding ding! The yellow-clothed elder's figure staggered back a few steps. His gaze suddenly changed. Whoosh! The sound of the wind was heard. A figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. He was wearing a cloak and his face could not be seen. However, the aura on his body was extremely powerful. Compared to the yellow-clothed elder, he was much more powerful. Looking at the sudden arrival of the helper, Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan were both puzzled. The back of the helper gave Du Xiaofu a sense of familiarity. However, Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan did not know if this person was really here to help them. Perhaps he was only here for the mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine. Who are you? Are you also here for the mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine? The yellow-clothed elder looked at the person who came. His face was gloomy and solemn. The person who came did not pay attention to the yellow-clothed elder. Instead, he looked at Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan and said, "The two of you should go and gather the others. After that, go back. The elders that you are waiting for should be on their way. Go. Thank you for your help." Hearing this, Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan were a little surprised. At this critical time, there was no time to delay. The two of them thanked the person and immediately left. Trying to escape? The yellow-clothed elder's face darkened. His profound chi fluctuated and runes flashed. He was about to stop Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. Do you think that you can stop them? You are courting death. The cloaked man shouted coldly. His hand seals quickly fluctuated. At the same time, the aura around him exploded. Runes soared into the sky, causing the surrounding space to fluctuate violently. After that, the runes condensed and a finger seal pierced through the air and pierced towards the yellow-clothed elder's head. Whoosh! As soon as the rune finger seal appeared, the surrounding space violently surged. Countless lightning bolts faintly surged, wanting to seal off the yellow-clothed elder's surroundings. That vast aura seemed to want to suppress everything, causing people to tremble in fear. It's right in front. Hurry up and chase. The mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine is on those two. It's right in front. Don't let them escape. In the dark night, a large number of figures shuttled through the dense forest. Countless birds flapped their wings and soared into the sky. Ferocious beasts lay dormant, not daring to make a sound. Whoosh whoosh. Figures came from all directions. Finally, more than 10 figures surrounded Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan once again. Flowing light spread around the figures. Their auras surged and surrounded Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan in a circular manner. These people were all at the Martial Lord realm. More than 10 Martial Lord realm auras locked onto Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan. Without a doubt, these Martial Lord realm cultivators were the experts from various forces who had rushed into the dark city these days for the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. It seems that we can't escape this battle. Du Xiaofu's figure stopped. Looking around, there were a total of 14 martial lord realm cultivators. Several of their auras were clearly at the mysterious level of the martial lord realm. It would be difficult for him to escape. Chapter 318. Let's make our move then, Gu Xinyan said softly. Beneath the red veil, her beautiful eyes started to turn cold. Runes started to move around her body. That lady seems to be a talisman master. Be careful of her talisman array. Attack. A burly man detected the aura fluctuation on Gu Xinyan's body, and his face suddenly changed. He stomped his foot in the air, and his figure pounced on Gu Xinyan like lightning. The mysterious aura of the martial lord realm surged, and the profound chi around his body roared. He waved his hand and punched out. Scram! At this moment, a loud shout rang out. A powerful aura that could suppress the sky descended from the sky. A rune energy directly collided with the big man's fist. Boom! With a muffled sound of energy, the martial lord of the great Han dynasty, whose cultivation was at the mysterious level, was directly shaken and forced to retreat. Who dares to sneak an attack on me? The faces of the crowd changed, and the burly man immediately raised his head and roared. Tianwu Academy, General. The roar sounded from the sky, and a streak of light landed on the field. The streak of light retracted, and a young man appeared. The young man was in his early 20s, and he had an imposing figure. Under the illumination of the faint glow from the runes, his bronze skin glowed. His facial features were distinct and deep. The aura around him seemed to be able to dominate the sky and suppress the mountains and rivers. Tianwu Academy, Ghost Baby. Another flowing light flashed down, and the flowing light converged to reveal a handsome young man in a long robe that was pitch black like ink. His face had distinct facial features that seemed like they were carved, and the aura around him rippled, causing one's hair to stand on end for no reason. Tianwu Academy, Wu Kei. Tianwu Academy, Guo Xiaofeng. Tianwu Academy, Baiming Feng. Tianwu Academy, Li Yuxiao. Another 4 roars sounded in the night sky, and the space rippled. 4 figures flew through the air, and 4 auras descended. There were 3 men and 1 woman. The woman wore a large red robe that partially covered her body, revealing a portion of her soft breasts that were as white as jade. She wore an armor-like short skirt that wrapped around her perky buttocks, revealing a pair of long, moist, and well-proportioned legs that extended all the way to her fair thighs. Her figure was graceful and enticing. A young man's black hair was tied behind his head. A few strands of hair fell to his ears. His eyes were deep and pitch black. Both of his hands wore a strange ancient green-colored bracelet. There were quite a number of unfamiliar symbols carved on the bracelet, causing his originally elegant demeanor to have an additional machine-like feeling. The second young man had a tall nose bridge. His skin had a faint crimson color, and his eyes were as black as ink. The third young man had a burly figure, and his crimson robe fluttered in the wind. The demonic aura emanating from him made one's heart tremble. With the appearance of these 6 people, the entire surrounding space was faintly distorted. 5 young men and an enchanting woman. 6 auras faintly soared into the sky, suppressing the mountains and rivers and crushing the vast sky. What 6 powerful juniors? Sensing the auras of these 6 people, the 14 martial marquee realm cultivators were also moved. Tianwu Academy, Gu Xinyan. Looking at the 6 of them, Gu Xinyan raised her head slightly and took off the cloak on her head. Her peerless beauty was revealed, and her disposition was otherworldly. Her beautiful eyes shone brightly. Tianwu Academy, Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu looked at the 6 of them and took off the cloak on his head. There was a smile on his resolute face, and his eyes were faintly golden. His aura was domineering and sharp. General Buddy in Shanhe, Lady Lingxian, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Princess Netherworld, Wu Kei, and Qianluo Sword, Guo Xiaofeng. They seemed to be the top 5 of Tianwu Academy's martial ranking. Astonishment flashed through the eyes of a burly man. He seemed to have heard of these reputable titles before. The 6 men and 2 women glanced at one another and didn't say anything. They quickly formed a circle and stood quietly. 8 powerful auras emanated from them. It seems like you guys have succeeded? The general glanced sideways at Du Xiaofu and said. On his handsome face, there was no worry for the 14 martial marquis trapped at this moment. We have succeeded, but we haven't seen Ghost Claw yet. Du Xiaofu nodded. It doesn't matter. Let's get rid of these people first. Let's fight. The general said, and his eyes flickered. Fight. Kill them all. Ghost Child looked at the 14 martial marquises and spoke with a gentle voice. However, there was a hint of sharpness in his voice. The aura on his body fluctuated, and a baleful aura spread out. Stop talking. Let's get rid of these people who are courting death first. Li Yuxiao made his move. His dark red hair fluttered in the wind as a faint, black devilish chi gushed forth from him. His red eyes flashed as he waved his hand, causing a great black halberd to appear. Runes erupted as the halberd locked onto one of his opponents. The great black halberd seemed as though it wanted to slash apart space itself. Ghost Child didn't say anything else. The faint black profound aura and baleful aura enveloped his body like liquid. The aura he released caused ripples to appear in the surrounding space. Chi. At the same time, Ghost Child turned into a shadow and pounced at the old man like a ghost. In the blink of an eye, he appeared before the old man and his sharp claws tore through the sky. Shinluo sword. Guo Feng raised both of his arms, and the runes on his hands blossomed. 2 ancient swords suddenly appeared in his hands. The sword light overflowed into the sky, and the runes surged as if they wanted to destroy the universe. Qilal. Biming Feng's pitch-black eyes also turned crimson at that moment, as if there were flame symbols about to erupt. A flaming blade condensed in his palm and swept across the sky. Along with the spreading flames, it covered half of the sky. Kill! Wu Kei shouted. She tapped the ground with the tip of her foot and flew up into the air. Her seductive figure was in the air, and a gust of ghostly aura swept out. Let's end this quickly. Gu Xinyan made her move. Her graceful figure moved. Her every movement was as beautiful as ever. She was so beautiful that it could move one's soul. Let's go and seize the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. So what if he is a junior from Tianwu Academy? The 14 martial marquis realm cultivators moved together. The temptation of the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine was enough to make them risk their lives. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, energy collided as the numerous martial marquis realm cultivators clashed. It was as if they were going to destroy the sky, making everyone shudder. Runes bloomed and energy spread out. Large areas of towering trees were uprooted and destroyed. Swoosh! The martial marquis realm cultivator who attacked Gu Xinyan just now unleashed his mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. In the dark night, the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine shrouded the general. Scram! The general shouted. An aura that could suppress mountains and rivers erupted. A resplendent light burst out, and the mighty rune energy swept out. A palm print was like a torrential flood as it crashed forward. An old man in a long gown took the opportunity to approach Du Xiaofu, who had yet to make his move. This old man seemed to have sensed that Du Xiaofu's aura was the weakest among the 8 of them. Brat, consider yourself unlucky. A cold glint flashed across the old man's eyes. A gust of mysterious spirit, Heavenly Vine swept out, along with Fu Wenjing's movement. The mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine turned into a mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine rune energy whirlpool that was over 30 meters wide. Walala! The mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine rune energy whirlpool enveloped Du Xiaofu. It wanted to engulf Du Xiaofu's body within the spiritual energy whirlpool and tear him into pieces. Qila! Within the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine rune energy whirlpool, a golden rune mark streaked across. A tyrannical and sharp aura swept out. The faint golden runes suppressed everything and instantly shattered the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine rune energy whirlpool. Die! An astonishing amount of energy spread out. Du Xiaofu's figure had already turned into a golden light and rushed out. He instantly appeared in front of the old man in a long gown. Caught off guard, he mercilessly punched the old man's chest. Bang! With a low, muffled sound, the old man in a long gown was directly sent flying. His defense was easily shattered. Blood immediately spurted out from his mouth. His body brushed against the ground and was blasted back over 10 meters. He only stopped after he crashed into a towering tree. Swish! Du Xiaogang was about to continue pouncing on the old man in a long gown when the sound of wind breaking resounded from his left. A fierce claw wrapped in dense runes surged out. It twisted the space and swept down. In an instant, it was in front of Du Xiaogang. It directly grabbed his left shoulder and wanted to tear off his left arm. Come on! Du Xiaofu slightly gritted his teeth. He did not dodge and allowed the claw to land on his shoulder. Swish! This claw landed on Du Xiaofu's left shoulder, destroying the profound qi defense and tearing apart the purple robe on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. However, when it landed on the flesh of Du Xiaofu's shoulder, the light golden runes on Du Xiaofu's shoulder surged out. The fierce claw could not move an inch further. The mighty and fierce force only left 5 shallow bloodstains on Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, a claw was exchanged for a fist. The fist was wrapped in faint golden talisman patterns, and 13 punches rang out as it directly bombarded the head of a short and burly man, blasting his head into pieces. Among the 8 people, Du Xiaofu was the first to kill a martial marquis. His ferocity immediately intimidated everyone. "Oh, war!" A beast roared. A middle-aged man in white was shrouded in the phantom of a demon wolf. The phantom of the demonic wolf seemed to have completely fused with his body, as if they were one. At this moment, the person was the phantom of the demonic wolf, and the phantom of the demonic wolf was the person. The fusion was seamless, and the aura of this person had reached its peak. Xiaoyu, continue to write. Today is the 1st of the month. Flowers are very important, so please guarantee the minimum number of flowers, recommendation tickets, and coffee. Brother, you can also click on them. Chapter 319. Meridian and soul merging into the body was a sign of reaching the martial marquis realm. It was qualitatively different from the meridian spirit realm, as it had completely merged with the meridian and soul. Oh, war! The white-robed middle-aged man's wolf-like body pounced at Ghost Child, and a wolf claw pressed down on the sky. You're using all your strength? Unfortunately, it's not enough. Seeing the opponent using all his strength, Ghost Child's pupils shrank. Suddenly, a light spread in his eyes, and a dark color covered his eyes. Suddenly, there was an indescribable ghostly coldness, and black Xian Qi and runes flashed. 9 serenities kill. The dark murderous aura gathered into a claw. Ghost Child didn't dodge, and clashed with the wolf claw. Crackle! In such a collision, dazzling energy runes bloomed, and a deep sonic boom resounded. The white-robed middle-aged man's wolf claw was destroyed. Die! Ghost Child's voice was short and terrifying. Then, another sharp claw that seemed to be able to tear the sky apart landed on the ferocious wolf head. The white-robed middle-aged man held on for a short while, and then his head was torn apart by Ghost Child's claw. Finally, Ghost Child killed him. Bang! Under the general's palm, his aura suppressed the mountains and rivers, and a bald, middle-aged man turned into a bloody mist. Crackle! Almost at the same time, ancient runes spread on Gue Xiaofeng's practitioner weapons, and the sword light tore the sky apart. The spiritual weapon of a long-haired man in short clothes was destroyed, and his chest was pierced by the ancient rune sword shadow. Blood spurted out, and his vitality dissipated. Rolling demonic aura swept through the sky. Liu Xiao activated the Demon Slayer sword and cut down his opponent in midair. Wu Kei and Gu Xinyan's beautiful and seductive bodies were wrapped in runes. They also killed their opponents in almost the same time. Crackle! Biming Feng waved his fire blade, and flames rose into the sky, illuminating the sky as if it was daytime. He also cut down his opponent. Crackle! But at the same time, an old man in plain clothes appeared behind Biming Feng. Passing through the flames, the mysterious aura of the martial marquis realm erupted, and his palm landed directly on Biming Feng. Bang! Biming Feng's body staggered and fell to the ground. He staggered a few steps before he could stabilize his body. Blood began to flow out from the corner of his mouth, and his face turned pale. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in front of the long-robed elder, who had been severely injured by Du Xiaofu's punch. At this moment, the long-robed elder had already struggled to get up. His eyes were filled with shock as he communicated with his martial vein. The mysterious runes of the talisman appeared, and a strange beast covered in scales suddenly appeared. Destroy! The golden light figure rushed out and displayed the sky-shaking wings. One of its hands was like a palm leaf fan as it quickly landed in front of the long-robed old man who had not fully activated his pulse soul. The old man's body was violently sent flying, and the strange beast's illusory image suddenly shattered. Boom! With a punch, a bloody hole appeared in the chest of the old man in the long gown. The second martial lord had fallen at the hands of Du Xiaofu. In the blink of an eye, 9 of the 14 martial lords had fallen. Only 5 remained, and the remaining 5 were at the mysterious level of the martial lords. The 5 martial marquis realm mysterious level cultivators had serious gazes and did not continue to attack. The 8 young men and women all had the strength to kill martial lords at the initial level, which proved that they had the strength to fight against martial lords at the mysterious level. At this moment, the 5 of them had no chance of winning against the 8 extraordinary young men and women. However, if they were to leave so easily, they would not be satisfied. Seeing the mysterious spirit heavenly vine in front of their eyes, but not being able to get it, one could imagine how they felt. Woo! At this moment, a demonic beast screeched in mid-air. A huge flying demonic beast flew over and appeared on this messy mountain range that was almost razed to the ground. Swoosh swoosh. 6 figures floated in mid-air and released their auras. 3 of them were at the initial level of the martial lords, 2 were at the mysterious level of the martial lords, and 1 was at the nirvana realm. The release of these 6 auras caused General Zai, Gu Xinyan, and the other 5 mysterious martial lords to have ugly expressions. Whoosh! On the back of the flying demonic beast, a young man in a black shirt jumped down and floated beside the 6 martial lords. His eyes were filled with arrogance and viciousness. He was the young master of the black killing sect, Shui Yunming. Shui Yunming's gaze immediately landed on Wu Kei and Gu Xinyan. His vicious and unruly gaze instantly became sluggish. It was as if his soul had been sucked away. He was unable to return to his senses for a long time. He had never met such an enchanting and elegant woman in the entire dark city, let alone get close to one. However, when Shui Yuming's gaze fell on Du Xiaofu, it was as if he had been electrocuted. His gaze fiercely twitched, and he opened his mouth in shock. "It's you." Shui Yuming recognized Du Xiaofu. At this moment, Du Xiaofu had taken off his cloak. Shui Yuming naturally would not forget the purple-robed young man who had killed so many of his black killing sect's elite disciples. In the end, even when the second elder intervened, the purple-robed young man was also rescued. The treasure that the sect was looking for was also in the hands of that young man. After so long, the black killing sect had searched the entire dark forest, but they still could not find any news of that young man. They thought that he had been rescued by that mysterious expert. "Yes, it's me." Du Xiaofu's expression was gloomy. At this moment, the purple robe on his shoulder was tattered, and there were faint traces of golden blood seeping out. Shui Yunming had seen him before, so he could naturally recognize him at a glance. "You're the one who bought the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine with a cloak. I really didn't expect to find it so easily after searching high and low for it." Shui Yuming looked at Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan beside him. Suddenly, he recognized Du Xiaofu, the one who had competed with him for the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine in the Mu family's trading house. Shui Yuming immediately laughed. Today, he could take revenge for both old and new grudges. Whoosh, whoosh. Following the shocking battle here, a large number of flowing light figures also swept into the surrounding air. Waves of aura descended, and the flowing light spread. There was no lack of experts in the martial lord realm among them. Many figures who had rushed over saw the huge scene below, and there were a few martial lord realm corpses lying on the ground. For a moment, they did not understand the situation and did not dare to casually attack. Instead, they all watched from the sidelines. Looking at the increasing number of figures rushing over, There was no lack of experts in the martial lord realm among them. Among the 6 martial lord realm experts from the Black Killing sect, the martial lord realm Nirvana realm cultivator's expression turned serious. He whispered something to Shui Yunming with a cold expression. He did not show too much respect to Shui Yunming. Instead, Shui Yunming was extremely respectful to him. After hearing that, Shui Yunming looked at the increasing number of figures around him. His gaze darkened, and he looked coldly at Du Xiaofu. He sneered and said arrogantly, "Kid, hand over the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine, and we can let go of our grudge today. Otherwise, you can't escape." Du Xiaofu's gaze swept past the increasing number of figures in the surroundings. In the end, his gaze landed on Shui Yunming. His gaze became extremely sincere, and there was even fear and dread in his eyes. He said, "Only now did I know that you're the young master of the Black Fiend sect. All right, I'll hand over the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine, and our past grievances will be written off." As his voice fell, Du Xiaofu took out a Chinquin bag from his chest. Runes surged, and then a rectangular brocade box that was half a person's length and half a meter high appeared in his hand. "Young master, I will hand over the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine to you. Remember, our grudges are written off." As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he opened the brocade box in his hand. In an instant, a dazzling light spread out from the brocade box. The light soared into the sky, and energy rippled through the air. At that moment, within the dazzling light, one could vaguely see a vine in the brocade box. However, before anyone could see it clearly, Du Xiaofu had already closed the brocade box. The mysterious spirit heaven-span vine. That is the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine. Many people in the surroundings had chased after them from the auction. They had all seen the brocade box and the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine. Although it was only a glimpse, it was enough for everyone to see that it was the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine. Everyone's eyes immediately turned red. "Young master, catch. The mysterious spirit heaven-span vine is yours." As soon as Du Xiaofu finished speaking, he immediately threw the brocade box in his hand to Shui Yunming, who was flying low in the air. Shui Yunming was still in a state of shock when Du Xiaofu really threw out the brocade box in his hand. How could he have imagined that the purple-robed youth would actually hand over the precious treasure, the mysterious spirit heavenly vine, to him? In fact, Shui Yunming had just said it casually at the beginning. How could he have spared the brat after handing over the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine? One should know that the brat had taken away the treasure of the Black Killing sect. However, Shui Yunming had never expected that the purple-robed youth would actually hand over the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine because of his words. Could it be that the brat was really afraid of his identity as the young master? "The mysterious spirit heaven-span vine is mine." After a short moment of shock, Shui Yunming also recovered from his shock. He immediately stretched out his hand and reached for the brocade box. "It's the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine. Snatch it." Everyone's eyes were blazing. At this moment, they saw the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine with their own eyes. How could they bear it? So what if the Black Killing sect was here? Walala! One by one, the martial marquee realm experts immediately took action to snatch it. Runes exploded and mysterious chi surged crazily. All of them were fighting for the brocade box. Bastard! Who dares to snatch the item of the Black Killing sect? The 6 martial marquee realm experts from the Black Killing sect immediately took action together. They released their energy, especially the martial marquee realm expert. His aura suppressed everything. Chapter 320. Bang, 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 bang. Air billowed in the air, flattening mountains and forests. "Go, let's go." Du Xiaofu stared at the sky, a cold smile on his face. He whispered to the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others, who were just as shocked. Celestial chi surged beneath his feet, and he immediately fled. The general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others were still in shock that Du Xiaofu had really handed the mysterious spirit heaven-span vine over to the Black Fiend sect. But when they saw Du Xiaofu leave, they gritted their teeth and followed, retreating quickly. Right now, Everyone's eyes were on the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine in the brocade box. Who would pay attention to Du Xiaofu and the others? Even if they did, no one would pay them any attention. The mysterious spirit heavenspan vine had already been handed over. Who would care about that purple-robed youth? Their only goal was the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine. Du Xiaofu, did you really hand the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine over to the Black Fiend sect? Along the way, the general and Gu Xinyan were the first to catch up to Du Xiaofu. Their gazes were serious. What do you think? Du Xiaofu sped up. He had just met the general and the others. Du Xiaofu was not surprised. When he had set off for the Dark City for the second time, he had already arranged for the general and the others to wait for him in the vicinity. Could it be that you gave a fake, mysterious spirit heavenspan vine? Gu Xinyan's beautiful eyes shone, but she was also puzzled. She had seen the exact same brocade box with her own eyes, and the green vine inside. Even if Du Xiaofu had faked it, he could not have done it so quickly. However, based on Gu Xinyan's understanding of Du Xiaofu these days, she felt that Du Xiaofu was not the kind of person who would really hand over the mysterious spirit heavenspan vine. Let's escape first. After Du Xiaofu finished speaking to Gu Xinyan, he turned to the general and asked, "Where are the others? Shall we meet up first and then return to the academy?" "They are not strong enough. Luo Tianqin and Tai who were injured. I told them to wait at the front," the general said. Night enveloped the area. On a mountain top, a couple of figures stared solemnly at the rune light that soared into the sky in the distance. "Could it be that they've met an expert?" said Ouyang Shuang to the king-scaled demonic tiger next to her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. "Don't worry. With their strength, it shouldn't be difficult for them to escape," Luo Tianqin said to Ouyang Shuang. After a few days of treatment, he looked much better than before. Whoosh! After Luo Tianqin said that, a few beams of light appeared in front of them. They were Du Xiaofu, the general, Gu Xinyan, and the others. "You're all back." When Ouyang Shuang, Luo Tianqin, Tai Hu and Pan Yu saw Du Xiaofu, the general and the others, they immediately gathered around them. Their knitted brows relaxed a little. "Let's leave this place and return to the academy. Quick," the general said to everyone. It was not a good time to stay. "Let's go." Luo Tianqin, Tai Hu, Ouyang Shuang, and Pan Yu nodded. The four of them were already prepared to leave at any time. "What a good plan. But since you're all here, stay here. Don't leave," said a cold voice. It sounded as if it came from afar, but it also sounded as if it came from the surroundings. The voice was extremely faint. "We can't leave." The general looked around and seemed to have sensed something. His expression suddenly became serious. Whoosh! In midair, the sound of wind breaking didn't cause much noise. Then, high up in the sky, 9 flowing light figures directly appeared. The light converged, and the leading silver-haired young man stood in the air. His glossy silver hair draped over his shoulders like a waterfall, loosely tied up with a monochromatic ribbon. He looked handsome, and his eyes were as deep as the abyss in the night. Beside the silver-haired man stood a gray-robed man. Under the gray-robed man's face, a long scar could be seen on his forehead, covered by the hair on his forehead. His eyes glowed with a gray-white light in the night, appearing exceptionally strange. Behind the gray-robed man, there was a black-robed old man and 5 masked men. Beside the gray-robed man, Ghost Claw was among them. His eyes were cold and his aura was cold. "It's Ghost Claw. It's them. The people who ambushed us at the Four Seas Inn were indeed with Ghost Claw." When they saw the 9 figures, the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others all had grave expressions on their faces. "That person is so powerful." Du Xiaofu raised his head and his gaze landed on the silver-haired man. When the silver-haired man appeared, there was no fluctuation of aura. However, the temperature in the air started to drop. It was as if the energy of heaven and earth had been quietly changed. This kind of aura silently made Du Xiaofu feel an extreme sense of danger. The students of Tianwu Academy are indeed not weak, as expected of Tianwu Academy. However, the current Tianwu Academy is much weaker than before. In the air, the silver-haired man's gaze swept across the general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, Wu Kei, and the rest. In the end, His gaze landed on Du Xiaofu and he asked, "You are Du Xiaofu?" "That's right." Du Xiaofu looked at the silver-haired man and suppressed the sense of danger in his heart. His profound qi fluctuated, and he was on guard. This person was able to change the energy of heaven and earth with the invisible fluctuation of aura around him. This kind of strength was not ordinary. "I didn't expect you to be so smart. You were able to make a fool out of the Black Fiend sect by framing them. However, you can't fool me." The silver-haired young man looked at Du Xiaofu with a faint smile. His eyes were cold as he said softly, "No wonder someone specially mentioned you in front of me and told me to take the opportunity to get rid of you, so as to avoid endless future troubles. Are you also from the Dark Nether sect?" Du Xiaofu was secretly shocked. This person actually knew that the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine that he had given Shui Yuming was a fake. This plan could be said to be flawless. Only the fort master of the Mu clan fort and himself knew about it. Even the fake mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine was personally arranged by Mu Mingqing. An ordinary person would not be able to tell the difference at a glance. Of the 3 Qingquan bags obtained from Mu Mingqing, one contained the real mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine, one contained the headless corpse, and the 3rd Qingquan bag contained the fake mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. In Du Xiaofu and Mu Mingqing's plan, they would throw out the fake mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine at the crucial moment to divert attention and seize the opportunity to escape. However, Du Xiaofu did not expect this silver-haired man, who had appeared out of nowhere, to know about it so clearly. From the silver-haired man's words, it seemed like someone was secretly watching him. It seemed like he had offended quite a number of people. When they heard Du Xiaofu mention the Dark Nether sect, the gray-robed man, the black-clad old man, and the 5 men wearing the cotton seeds changed their expressions. They did not expect their identities to be unknowingly exposed. "It seems like you know too much and must die. Then, all of you will die." The silver-haired man's expression changed. In an instant, the surrounding temperature plummeted. It was as if they had silently fallen into an ice cave. TSK, do it. I want Gu Xinyan. You can deal with the rest." Ghost Claw's cold voice came out in the dark night. His eyes were deep in his eye sockets. His eyes were red and filled with extreme coldness, giving people a creepy feeling. As soon as he finished speaking, he did not hesitate at all. He stomped on the air, and his figure flashed towards Gu Xinyan. "Fight!" the general shouted. His aura soared into the sky and hovered in the air. The general ranked first on the martial roll is still too young. Today, he will die in the dark forest. As soon as he shouted, the gray-robed man's eyes were filled with coldness. He directly blocked the general's path. "Nine Nether is too young. Ghost Child, I will deal with you first," the black-clad old man said coldly. His figure suddenly pounced toward Ghost Child. Fingerprints shot out along with the sound of wind breaking. The sharp wind tore through the air and swept toward Ghost Child in an instant. Ghost Child's pupils shrank. The tip of his foot touched the ground. Light black celestial qi surged like liquid and covered his body. In an instant, he retreated dozens of feet. Crackle. As Ghost Child retreated, several fingerprints fell around Ghost Child. The fingerprints destroyed the ground, and a large number of cracks spread out. "Jade Girl Gu Xinyan, TSK. You captured me last time. This time, I will settle the score with you. But don't worry, I will let you die comfortably." Ghost Claw let out a sinister chuckle. His words were ear-piercing and his eyes were filled with filth. Within a short period of time, his figure appeared in front of Gu Xinyan in the blink of an eye like a ghost. As his words sounded out, numerous mysterious symbols surged out from his shriveled ghost claw-like hands. Crackle. A cold aura spread out from Ghost Claw's body. Under that cold aura, the celestial qi in Gu Xinyan's body slowed down a little. But in a short period of time, Gu Xinyan's hand seals condensed. Runes covered the sky and began to fight against Ghost Claw. "Let's end this quickly. The sooner we finish this, the better. The mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine is also with you. Let's kill you first." The silver-haired man stared at Du Xiaofu, his voice faintly discernible. That indifferent tone of his made it seem as if everything was a matter of course, as if he didn't care about Du Xiaofu at all. His silhouette stepped out, as if he could traverse the vast sky, striding towards Du Xiaofu. Chapter 321. Du Xiaofu, take the mysterious spirit heavenly vine and leave first. Quick! Liu Xiao bellowed. His dark red robes fluttered in the wind as a red glow flickered in his eyes. A demonic aura overflowed from his body, causing dark clouds to form in the sky. Dazzling crimson light filled the sky as a sinister wind blew in the sky. Dark clouds covered the sky, covering the sky. Demonic sword triple kill. Without any delay, Liu Xiao's demon-slaying sword swept through the sky and gathered 3 blade lights. They were like 3 roaring demonic blades. The blood-black runes bloomed like a bright moon, wanting to turn this space into a demonic land. The 3 demonic swords covered the sky as Liu Xiao blocked the silver-haired man with his full strength. He could feel the terrifying aura coming from the silver-haired man. Although you're not weak, you're still too weak before me. Facing Liu Xiao's 3 demonic blades, the demonic aura surged and covered the area. The silver-haired man's eyes moved slightly, and a dazzling pale white light suddenly spread out. Runes wrapped around his body, and his aura suddenly rose sharply. His aura suddenly suppressed everything for no reason. That kind of fluctuation made everyone suddenly feel fear. Qilal, the silver-haired man, stepped forward, suppressing everything. His aura seemed to have sealed the entire space. Then, he waved his hand slightly at the 3 demonic blades, neutralizing the 3 demonic blades that were about to collapse before him. He easily destroyed the 3 demonic blades into nothingness. Qi. Then, the silver-haired man strangely appeared in front of Liu Xiao. A stream of pale white runic energy swept across Liu Xiao's body. Liu Xiao wanted to retreat, but he realized that there was one thing he couldn't do. Facing the silver-haired man, the blood in his body was rushing chaotically and his body was in intense pain. It was as though his body was on the verge of shattering under the pressure of the silver-haired man. Puchi. When the energy gushed over, Liu Xiao could no longer endure it. He coughed out large mouthfuls of blood as his body was sent flying. He fell from the sky and crashed into a towering tree, suffering a heavy blow. Too strong. The crowd from Tianwu Academy was dumbstruck. How terrifying was the silver-haired man? Liu Xiao's full strength was actually unable to withstand a single move from him. How terrifying was his strength? Liu Xiao. Du Xiaofu leaped to Liu Xiao's side and supported the heavily injured and bleeding Liu Xiao. Du Xiaofu's eyes were bloodshot. Liu Xiao had blocked the silver-haired man's attack for him, but he had been severely injured in one move. He no longer had the strength to fight and was probably half dead. Qinluo sword technique? Guo Xiaofeng shot through the air, the Qinluo sword dancing in the air. At this moment, the energy of heaven and earth in the surrounding space was in chaos. Large swaths of sword shadows crisscrossed in the air. Crude runes blossomed and danced in the air, as if they wanted to destroy the universe. Qi-la-la, the sword image was about to pierce through space. Dazzling symbols shone resplendently as a dazzling mist spread out and enveloped the area. Its imposing aura suppressed the sky and was accompanied by a supreme pressure. Suddenly, it was as if an enormous cocoon of sword light had enveloped the silver-haired man. A practitioner weapon that is not weak is still too weak. An indifferent voice rang out from the sword shadow cocoon. Then, a pale white light shot out from the sword shadow cocoon. As the silver-haired man flew out, the sword shadow cocoon instantly shattered into runes that filled the sky. Puchi. As the sword shadow cocoon shattered, Guo Xiaofeng seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. He coughed out a mouthful of blood and retreated with a pale face. Qi. Fire blade Biming Feng appeared beside the silver-haired man. His pitch-black eyes seemed to be on the verge of erupting with fiery runes. The fiery blade in his hand swept across the sky, and along with the spreading flames, it engulfed the silver-haired man. Never-ending. How irritating. The silver-haired man snorted coldly. He seemed to have been enraged. Amidst the torrential flames, a pale white rune hand shot out and destroyed the flames. With a momentum as fast as lightning, it grabbed Fire Blade Biming Feng's neck. Not good. Everyone from Tianwu Academy was alarmed. At this moment, they couldn't help but exclaim. And just as everyone had been worried about the most, in front of everyone's eyes, Fire Blade Biming Feng's body was crushed by the silver-haired man in midair. His body was crushed into a bloody mist that scattered across the night sky. Biming Feng, Tai Hu, Guo Xiaofeng, Wu Kei, and the rest yelled. The eyes of the general, Ghost Child, and Gu Xinyan, who were engaged in an intense battle, turned scarlet red. Brat, you shall die too. Your talent is not bad, but it's a pity. After killing Biming Feng, the silver-haired man remained unmoved. Even his eyes didn't waver. His chilling gaze was fixed on Du Xiaofu. He swooped down and pressed down on Du Xiaofu. Qi. Suddenly, a stream of light shot out from the night sky like lightning and blocked Du Xiaofu's path. It's him. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved. The person who came was the one who helped him and Gu Xinyan to fend off the Martial Lord Realm Nirvana Realm cloaked figure. When the cloaked figure appeared, he suddenly waved his hand. Surges of mystic chi and runes collided with the silver-haired man. A horrifying aura exploded. It was even more domineering than the general and Gu Xinyan. Bang, bang, bang. In the night sky, an intense battle broke out. Densely packed figures besieged the experts of the Black Kill sect. The runes were dazzling, and the collision of energy was like thunder. At that moment, the brocade box containing the mysterious spirit vine had already landed on Shui Yuming's body. Shui Yuming was overjoyed. He didn't expect the mysterious spirit vine to land on him so easily. However, he was besieged by experts that blotted out the sky and earth, so he couldn't escape at all. Several martial marquee experts from the Black Fiend sect surrounded Shui Yuming in a circular formation. Their expressions were rather ugly. Facing more and more attacks from the crowd from all directions, there was no lack of martial marquee experts. Sooner or later, they would be exhausted to death. In such a situation, it was likely that they would not be able to hold on for long. The mysterious spirit vine is on that brat. Seize it. Seize the mysterious spirit vine. The crowd broke out and attacked crazily. If it were one or two people, perhaps they wouldn't dare to attack the young master of the Black Kill sect in the dark forest. However, among the densely packed crowd, there were many experts who weren't from the dark forest. Especially with the temptation of the mysterious spirit vine, they naturally didn't have any scruples. Their eyes all surged with crimson red. Bang, bang, bang. Being besieged crazily, the few Martial Lord Realm experts from the Black Kill sect were also suffering. The few Martial Lord Realm experts who had just ascended to the Martial Lord Realm had already suffered heavy injuries. The strongest Martial Lord Realm expert at the Nirvana Realm was also unable to suppress everything under the overwhelming siege. He could only barely protect Shui Yuming. Bang! With a low muffled sound, one of the Martial Lord Realm experts from the Black Kill sect was swept away by the dense siege. Finally, he couldn't hold on anymore. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and his body was forced back. Immediately after, the second Martial Lord Realm expert from the Black Kill sect was also heavily injured. Hand over the mysterious spirit vine. A Martial Lord Realm expert at the mysterious spirit realm pounced towards Shui Yuming. This person was one of the last 5 Martial Lord Realm experts from the 14 that besieged Du Xiaofu and Gu Xinyan not long ago. At this moment, the mysterious spirit vine landed on Shui Yuming's body. They naturally locked onto Shui Yuming. Young master, be careful. The surrounding Martial Lord Realm experts from the Black Kill sect shouted. However, at this moment, they were locked onto by the dense attacks. It was difficult for them to escape. Just as the Martial Lord Realm expert pounced in front of Shui Yuming, the space in front of Shui Yuming suddenly fluctuated. Then, a black-clothed thin figure appeared. As the black-clothed thin figure appeared, a huge pressure suddenly descended. A monstrous evil aura also swept out, causing the entire surrounding to suddenly freeze. Not good. Under this pressure and monstrous baleful aura, the martial marquee old man, who was pouncing towards Shui Yuming, seemed to have suddenly felt something. His face immediately turned pale, and his eyes were quickly filled with shock. He suddenly began to retreat. At the same time, an arrogant and furious laughter resounded through the sky. Looks like there are more and more people who don't put my black kill sect in their eyes. The arrogant and furious laughter resounded in the night sky like thunder. The monstrous evil aura and pressure it contained caused the blood and profound chi in the bodies of the surrounding people to freeze. Their hair stood on end for no reason, and uneasiness and fear surged in their hearts. Martial Lord Realm, Mysterious Spirit Realm. In front of me, you're just a bastard. You actually dare to touch my black kill sect. Under the gazes of the crowd, the Martial Lord Realm, Mysterious Spirit Realm old man who was about to retreat had just retreated. However, the black thin figure sneered. He took a step forward and crossed the space. With a wave of his hand, a black rune palm print instantly swept out. It passed through the space and enveloped the Martial Lord Realm, Mysterious Spirit Realm old man. Bang bang. Under the pressure of the palm print, the body of the Martial Lord Realm, Mysterious Spirit Realm old man was destroyed like rotten wood. He suddenly turned into a large amount of blood mist and exploded. He couldn't be any more dead. He didn't have the strength to resist at all. All of you can go to hell. The thin figure's killing intent shot out as his baleful aura overflowed into the sky. A monstrous aura swept out like a storm around him, whistling through the sky in an instant. Rumble. The terrifying storm emitted the fluctuations of the black talisman inscriptions. Wind rose and clouds surged in the air. The pressure was unparalleled, and the baleful aura caused one's hair to stand on end. Bang bang bang. The three Martial Lord Realm cultivators were enveloped. They didn't even have the time to scream before their bodies exploded into a bloody mist. Under the terrifying baleful aura energy, the surrounding crowd also flew backwards as if they had suffered a heavy blow. Martial King Realm Expert, that's a Martial King Realm Expert. Chapter 322. Martial King Realm Expert, that's a Martial King Realm Expert. Poochie. Fear and shock surged in everyone's eyes as countless figures fell from the sky. The terrifying force caused ravines to appear on the already messy ground. The remaining people no longer dared to make a move. They were all horrified as they sucked in a breath of cold air. A martial marquis was unable to withstand a single blow. With a raise of his hand, a martial marquis was destroyed. The person who came must have reached the Martial King realm. In front of a Martial King realm expert, they were just ants. The sect master has come out. Greetings, sect master. In contrast, the Martial Marquis realm cultivators of the Black Fiend sect were pleasantly surprised when they saw the thin figure in black that suddenly appeared. It's the sect master of the Black Fiend sect, Xue Tianqiu. Rumor has it that Xue Tianqiu has already reached the Martial King realm. All the people who had just besieged the Black Fiend sect retreated far away. Their faces were filled with shock. At this moment, who would dare to make a move? In front of absolute strength, even if the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine was placed in front of them, their lives were the most important. The thin figure in black looked to be around 60 years old. His eyes were deep and there was a faint, baleful aura around him, causing the surrounding space to faintly distort. He was the absolute expert in the dark forest, the sect master of the Black Fiend sect, Xue Tianqiu. With a stomp of his foot, it was enough to shake the entire dark forest. Father, I've obtained the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. Xue Yiming happily stepped forward and handed the brocade box to his father. To be able to easily obtain the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine was definitely a great merit. Xue Tianqiu's gaze slightly moved as he sucked the brocade box into his hand. He opened the brocade box and a multicolored light soared into the sky. Energy fluctuated and a green vine appeared in the brocade box. It looked like the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. It's not the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine at all. It's just the green nightmare spiritual vine that set up some tricks. Bastard, you've been deceived. When Xue Tianqiu saw the multicolored light spreading within the brocade box and the green vine, his eyes immediately turned gloomy. With a loud cry, the brocade box and the green vine in his hand were instantly shattered into ashes. A monstrous baleful aura swept out, causing the hearts of countless people in the distance to jump. Bastard. It's all because of that little bastard. Father, You must capture that little bastard. The guy who obtained the profound spirit heavenspan vine is the purple-robed youth who obtained our Black Fiend sect's treasure last time. Shui Yuming's expression changed. Only now did he realize that the purple-robed youth wasn't really afraid of him, the young master of the Black Fiend sect. The purple-robed youth had only given him the fake mysterious spirit heavenspan vine so that he could fend off the pursuit. He had almost been played to death by the purple-robed youth. As the cloaked figure appeared in front of Du Xiaofu, surging rune energy rushed towards the silver-haired man. There's finally something worth watching. However, it's still far from enough in front of me. As the silver-haired man's voice fell, he waved his hand and a light gray rune energy flickered. It suddenly collided with the rune energy that the cloaked figure had activated. Martial King Realm. Seeing this, the cloaked figure's pupils suddenly shrank. A feeling of uneasiness suddenly surged in his heart. He immediately wanted to dodge and retreat. Crash! The light gray rune energy collided with the rune energy that the cloaked figure had activated and strangely swallowed it directly. It didn't have much resistance and was completely unable to resist. Chi-Chi. Just as the cloaked figure was about to dodge and retreat, the silver-haired man had already appeared like a ghost. On the 5 fingers of his slender and fair right hand, there were light gray runes on the fingertips. He pointed directly at the cloaked figure's head. Shock gushed out from the cloaked figure's eyes. The profound spirit chi around his body surged violently. In a panic, he turned around and retreated. He activated an extraordinary movement technique and narrowly avoided his head. However, the finger imprint carried a sharp force that made one's heart turn cold. It landed on his right shoulder as fast as lightning. Chila. The clothes on the shoulders of the cloaked man were torn to shreds. His defense was destroyed as easily as breaking dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. A bloody hole was shot out from his body. Blood gushed out and dyed the clothes on his chest, shoulders, and back red. His body then staggered and fell to the ground. Chilal. The cloak brushed against the ground and was lifted up, revealing a pale face. Seeing that pale face, Du Xiaofu's expression changed drastically. This person was none other than Tianwu Academy's Elder Liao. Elder Liao? Du Xiaofu was shocked. The person who had risked his life to block the silver-haired man for him was actually Elder Liao, who had many grudges with him in Tianwu Academy and who had deliberately targeted him. Elder Liao. In the distance, Ouyang Shuang, Luo Tianqin, and the others were also shocked when they saw Elder Liao. Suddenly, there was a fluctuation of energy. The 5-masked martial marquee cultivators who had followed the silver-haired man had already attacked Ouyang Shuang, Luo Tianqin, Tai Hu, and Pan Yu. Qi. The silver-haired man swooped down, and killing intent filled the air. His aura suppressed everything as he charged toward Du Xiaofu and Elder Liao. Brat, are you afraid of death? Elder Liao stood up and looked at Du Xiaofu. The last bit of his profound energy spread out and his eyes shone brightly. You might not die. Du Xiaofu supported Li Yuxiao and placed him on a rock by the side. Faint golden talisman inscriptions flickered in his eyes. Die. It's time to end this, the silver-haired man said in a cold voice. Then, a layer of pale white energy appeared on his palm. There were runes flashing on the surface of the pale white energy. Then, an overwhelming ice-cold aura was released. It enveloped Du Xiaofu and Elder Liao and covered a large area of space. I'm also interested in the mysterious spirit heavenly vine. Don't take it for yourself. Suddenly, a strange and calm voice resounded, and a rune energy pillar tore through the air. Everywhere it passed, space distorted like a fried dough twist, causing the energy in the surroundings to tremble violently. After that, it directly collided with the silver-haired man. Bang! When the two energies collided, a terrifying force swept out in an instant. It was as though space itself was about to explode. After which, a terrifying energy rippled outwards. Rumble. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The ground cracked, and a large number of towering trees were swept away. The entire mountain was flattened. Under the terrifying force, sand and stones flew. Du Xiaofu and Elder Liao had to retreat in a hurry. Ding ding. This time, The silver-haired man staggered. His silver hair fluttered behind him, and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Chi. Under the night sky, under the illumination of the surrounding runes, a gray ray of light appeared. The ray of light disappeared, and a gray-robed old man appeared. He stretched his arms and did not look at the silver-haired old man. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look at Du Xiaofu, who had been forced to retreat. His voice was still calm, but there was a hint of age in it. He said indifferently, "Brat, so you're from Tianwu Academy? We meet again." "That's right, we meet again. Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road." Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. He did not expect to meet the gray-robed old man here. Others might not know who this person was, but Du Xiaofu knew that this gray-robed old man had appeared in the auction house of the Mu family's trading company. He was the dignified medicine king, a 6-star spiritual talisman master, a terrifying existence that was equivalent to the martial king realm. It was definitely a small world. Haha. The medicine king smiled faintly and did not continue speaking to Du Xiaofu. Instead, he looked at the sky and said, "It's lively now. It has been a long time since the dark forest was so lively." As the medicine king looked at the sky, the silver-haired man also raised his head and looked at the sky. He seemed to have discovered something. Boom. In a short period of time, a figure flew over from afar. Then, a black-robed skinny figure appeared. Following the appearance of this person, an enormous pressure suddenly descended. A torrential, baleful aura swept out, causing the entire sky to freeze. The black-robed skinny figure stood in the sky. He looked to be in his 60s and his gaze was somewhat gloomy. He was the sect master of the Black Fiend sect, Shui Tianqiu. Whoosh whoosh. Following the arrival of this person, many rays of light flashed behind him. Then, a few martial lord realm cultivators from the Black Fiend sect and Shui Yuming hurried over and stood respectfully behind Du Xiaofu. What a powerful aura! Du Xiaofu looked at the black-robed skinny old man. From the shocking aura, it was not difficult to see that this person's aura was not below that of the silver-haired man. Without a doubt, this was another terrifying martial king realm expert. Shui Tianqiu of the Black Fiend sect. In the sky, Ghost Claw, who was suppressing Gu Xinyan, looked at the black-robed skinny old man with a fierce gaze. His gaze was also filled with fear. "Father, it's that guy. The mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine is in his hands. Last time, the treasure of our Black Fiend sect also fell into his hands." Shui Yunming floated in the air. When he saw Du Xiaofu's figure below, his gaze suddenly surged with gloomy anger. If it was not for the fact that he knew that his strength was not enough, Shui Yunming would have already pounced on Du Xiaofu. Thinking of how he almost lost his life because of the fake mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine and the old grudges from the past, Shui Yunming could not wait to turn Du Xiaofu into ashes. "Brat, hand over what I want. Otherwise, you will regret it." Hearing this, Shui Tianqiu's gaze also looked at Du Xiaofu from afar. The gaze in his eyes fluctuated like a dormant scorpion in a cave. Being stared at by that gaze would make one's hair stand on end. "Shui Tianqiu, long time no see. The moment you come out, you scare a junior. That's not very graceful." 8 o'clock, Xiaoyu continues to write, working hard. Chapter 323. Just as Shui Tianqiu finished speaking, a calm voice suddenly resounded in the air. The calm voice contained a great majesty. Whoosh, whoosh. As the voice fell, several flowing light flashed behind them and swept across the sky. The flowing light converged, and a burly man in his 40s stood in the air. He was not handsome, but he had a heroic spirit. His eyes were bright, and he had an imposing manner. Several middle-aged and old men behind the burly man also had an extraordinary aura. They were all experts in the martial marquee realm. Mu Clan Fort. Du Xiaofu looked at the burly man with a sinister aura. It was the fort master of Mu Clan Fort, Mu Mingqing. Du Xiaofu's frown eased a little, but he still looked dignified. "Mu Mingqing, the mysterious spirit vine was auctioned by your Mu Clan Trading Company. Are you going to interfere?" Seeing Mu Mingqing, Shui Tianqiu's face suddenly turned ugly. The mysterious spirit vine has been sold, and it has nothing to do with me. So, there is nothing wrong with me coming here now. Moreover, Ghost Claw entrusted the mysterious spirit vine to my Mu Clan trading company to auction. Now that Ghost Claw is here, there is nothing wrong with me coming to join in the fun. Mu Mingqing smiled indifferently. He looked through the crowd and saw Ghost Claw, who was still fighting with Gu Xinyan. He said loudly, "Ghost Claw, tell me, can I come here?" One by one, the strong cultivators arrived. Although Ghost Claw had suppressed Gu Xinyan, he had been thinking about her beauty for a long time. However, at this moment, he no longer had the heart to continue fighting. He took the opportunity to retreat and looked at Xue Tianqiu and Mu Mingqing. His skinny face was very embarrassed. He squeezed out an ugly smile and said to Mu Mingqing, "Fort Lord Mu is right. Naturally, we can also come here." As Ghost Claw stopped, the surrounding experts suddenly descended. The gray-robed man, the black-clothed old man with a sinister gaze like a poisonous snake, and the few masked martial marquis cultivators all felt uneasy. They unconsciously stopped, their gazes secretly fluctuating, and then they all stood behind the silver-haired man. The general, Gu Xinyan, Ghost Child, and the others retreated. Their faces were pale as they approached Elder Liao and Du Xiaofu. "Did you three hear that? I can come here openly, so why are you still hiding? It's rare for us to meet, so let's take this opportunity to get together." Mu Mingqing smiled faintly as he looked into the distance. "Are there any more experts?" Du Xiaofu frowned. There were more and more experts coming today. This was becoming more and more disadvantageous for him. "You're right. Let's take this opportunity to get together." A soft and delicate voice came from afar. "It's rare for all of you to come. It's really not easy." A sinister voice was heard. Whoosh whoosh. As these two voices rang out, a figure appeared in the sky to the left. It was as if he had crossed the sky and appeared in the sky. It was a middle-aged man in his 50s. He was wearing a brocade robe. He was not tall, but he was shockingly fat. His head was about the size of two people's heads. His face was so fat that his eyes seemed to be squinting at all times. On the right side of the sky, there were two figures standing in the air. Both of them looked to be around 70 years old. Both of them were skinny and had long hair that reached their shoulders. One of them was wearing a blue long robe, while the other was wearing a yellow long robe. Both of them looked very similar, as if they were twins. When these three people appeared, three more terrifying auras appeared in the sky. They were not weaker than Xue Tianqiu, and each of their auras had the power to distort space. After these three people appeared, they immediately scanned the area. In the end, they looked at the king of medicine and the silver-haired old man with curiosity. Xue Tianqiu, the sect leader of the Black Fiend sect, Mu Mingqing, the fort master of the Mu family fort, Wan Sanpang, the pavilion master of the Thousand Clouds Pavilion, and the two brothers, Hentian and Hindi, the sect leaders of the Double Hatred sect. These people are all here. Elder Liao's expression turned solemn as he looked at the experts in the sky, each of whom had a powerful aura. Wan Sanpang, the pavilion master of the 10,000 Clouds Pavilion, and the two brothers, Hentian and Hindi of the Twin Hatred sect. Listening to Elder Liao's whisper, Du Xiaofu looked at the last three people in the sky. The fat man in the middle was Wan Sanpang, the pavilion master of the 10,000 Clouds Pavilion. The other two old men who looked like twins were undoubtedly the two brothers, Hentian and Hindi of the Twin Hatred sect. The Mu family fort, the Black Fiend sect, the 10,000 Clouds Pavilion, and the Twin Hatred sect were the four major forces in the Dark Forest. They controlled the entire Dark Forest. The silver-haired man looked at Xue Tianqiu, Mu Mingqing, the two brothers, Wan Sanpang, the king of medicine, and the others in the sky. His eyes flickered. Whoosh whoosh. A moment later, the shocking commotion here once again attracted the dense search crowd in the distance. However, when they felt the shocking aura in front of them solidifying the space, the pressure spread silently. It made them tremble, and the celestial qi in their bodies stagnated. They could only watch from afar and did not dare to get close. The king of medicine suddenly turned around and looked at Du Xiaofu. His tone was still quite calm as he asked, "Boy, how about we make a deal? You seem to have a lot of enemies. Give me the mysterious spirit heavenly vine, and you come with me. Today, I will not only protect you, but also protect the people around you. How about it? You are a smart man. You should know what to choose. Du Xiaofu looked at the powerful people in the sky. Other than the people from the Mu family fort, they were all here for the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine. The silver-haired man and the people from the Black Fiend sect would not let him go. The powerful people from Tianwu Academy had not arrived yet, and he did not know when they would arrive. If he did not agree to the King of Medicine's proposal, Tianwu Academy would undoubtedly have to face the other 5 forces. Du Xiaofu also knew that he could not expose the fact that the Mu family fort was helping Tianwu Academy. Otherwise, the Mu family fort and Tianwu Academy would become the target of public criticism. Even the Mu family fort would be implicated. All right, I agree. Du Xiaofu lifted his head and nodded at the King of Medicine. He did not need to think for long, and this was not a difficult decision. However, when Du Xiaofu nodded, Elder Liao, the general, and Gu Xinyan's expressions changed slightly. However, they did not say anything. They were well aware of the situation that everyone was in. All right, deal. The King of Medicine smiled and nodded his head. Sir, I want the people from Tianwu Academy. Are you sure you want to interfere? The silver-haired man stared at the King of Medicine. His gaze became more and more sinister, sending chills down one's spine. That purple-robed lad is mine. I won't be courteous to anyone who tries to stop me. Xue Tianqiu's gaze landed on the King of Medicine. A murderous aura emanated from his body. He would not let that purple-robed lad off. The King of Medicine stared at Xue Tianqiu. His gray robe fluttered slightly and his aura spread out. He said, I said that I will protect him, and I will protect him. Xue Tianqiu, if you want to fight with me, you better think about the consequences. You are. Xue Tianqiu looked at the King of Medicine and felt a familiar aura. Many years ago, he had unintentionally seen the old man in gray robes from afar. Rather than saying that he had seen him, it was more accurate to say that he had only felt his aura. However, at that time, he was not the sect leader of the Black Fiend sect. Although he was not weak, he was not at his current level. Xue Tianqiu looked at the King of Medicine suspiciously and his expression changed. Finally, he seemed to have recalled something and was stunned. He said, You are the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming. King of Medicine, Yi Wuming. When those 5 simple words were heard, Mu Mingqing, Hen Tian Hateful Earth, Wan Sampang, Elder Liao, and the others were all stunned. The King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, was actually in the dark forest. It was rumored that the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, had disappeared for a long time and they had never seen him. They had only heard of the legends and stories of the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming. The King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, had been famous for a long time and was proficient in the art of alchemy. It was rumored that as long as the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, made a move, there was no injury that he could not cure. What made the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, even more famous was that if you wanted Yi Wuming to save someone, you had to agree to the rules set by Yi Wuming. There was only one rule in Dr. Wuming, which was to save a life, and to save a life. The person being saved had to promise that after they recovered, they would unconditionally kill someone for Yi Wuming, including friends and family. As long as Yi Wuming said it, they had to do it. There had been more than one person who had asked the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, to save them, but in the end, they had all become the target of the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming, and died miserably on the streets. Even if they were strong enough to escape death, as long as someone asked the King of Medicine to save them, they would always be the target of the King of Medicine. Not to mention that the King of Medicine, Yi Wuming's strength was already very terrifying. Just the King of Medicine's rallying power was terrifying. Who could guarantee that they would not be seriously injured in the future? If they were injured to the point where they could not recover, they would inevitably have to ask the King of Medicine to save them. Not to mention, it was the same for others. As long as there were injured people, the King of Medicine would have an endless supply of people to use. In addition, the King of Medicine had been famous for a long time. After so many years, as a spirit talisman master and a medicine talisman master, he had a huge rallying power. Who would want the King of Medicine to owe them a favor? In the future, it would be much more convenient to ask the King of Medicine for help. Not to mention, after so many years, who knew how many people the King of Medicine had saved without using any conditions? Provoking the king of medicine was the same as asking for countless experts to assassinate and kill them. Shui Tianqiu's eyes fiercely twitched. The king of medicine, Yi Wuming, was definitely a difficult person to deal with. No one wanted to provoke him, and he also did not want to provoke him. If he could make friends with him, that was what he wanted the most. But that purple-robed youth not only had the mysterious spirit Heavenly Vine, he had also taken his treasure. He definitely could not let him go. Slightly raising his head, Shui Tianqiu looked at the king of medicine and said, "I'm really sorry, but I must have that purple-robed youth. I don't care if I offend him. There are more chapters, but it will probably be very late. For the rest of the chapters, don't stay up late to wait for them. Leave them for tomorrow. Little you will continue to work hard and continue to ask for flowers." Chapter 324. Upon hearing this, the Medicine King stared at the silver-haired man. His calm voice became sharper as he said in a deep voice, "Old man Yinming, others might not know who you are, but I do. You cultivate the dark nether returning yang technique. You're already over 100 years old, but you're acting like a youngster. Is there a need for you to act like this? It seems like you know quite a lot." The silver-haired man's expression darkened as he stared at the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, with murderous intent. "What? You want to kill me? Old man Yinming, you're not qualified. The Dark Forest isn't the territory of the Dark Nether sect. It seems like the Dark Nether sect doesn't care about the pavilion and the fort," the Medicine King said indifferently as he glanced at the silver-haired man. He did not take the silver-haired man seriously. The Dark Nether sect's people have gone overboard in the Dark Forest recently. They've sold and robbed the profound spirit Heavenspan Vine. They're also acting recklessly in the Dark City. Don't tell me they don't care about the pavilion and the fort," Mu Mingqing said in a deep voice. His handsome face was fixed on the silver-haired man. Following Mu Mingqing's words, Wan Sampang, Hen Tian and Hindi's gazes began to fluctuate with ill intentions. When faced with an external force, the pavilion and the castle had always been of one mind. The silver-haired man's expression turned ugly when he sensed Mu Mingqing and the others' gazes and auras. The corners of his lips trembled slightly as he said, "Everyone, don't fall for their ploy of sowing discord. My Dark Nether sect has no interest in the Dark Forest at all. I only dealt with the people from Tianwu Academy because I have a personal grudge with them. After dealing with those people, I'll leave immediately and never step into the Dark Forest again. I won't lay my hands on the profound spirit Heavenly Vine on that brat either." As soon as the silver-haired man finished speaking, Hen Tian, Hindi, and Third Fatty Wan exchanged glances. Their auras gradually dissipated as they began to observe the situation. "Sir, since someone is blocking our way, why don't we work together? That purple-robe lad will be mine, and the rest of the Tianwu Academy members will be yours. What do you think?" Shui Tianqiu looked at the silver-haired man and said. The silver-haired man's eyes were cold and gloomy. The Double Sevens festival lingered in his eyes, causing people to feel a chill in their hearts. He nodded and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile. He sneered and said, "I originally wanted to kill that Du Xiaofu with my own hands. Since things have turned out like this, I'll leave Du Xiaofu to you." Hearing this, Mu Mingqing's eyes narrowed slightly, but looking at Hen Tian, and Wan Sampang not far away, he did not immediately express anything. "Humph." The Medicine King coldly snorted as waves of qi suddenly rippled in the surroundings. With Old Man Yinming and Shui Tianqiu joining hands, he had no choice but to become serious. "I'll hold back the Medicine King. I'll leave the rest to you." Sensing the aura rippling from the Medicine King, the silver-haired man sneered. The moment he finished speaking to Shui Tianqiu, a torrential grayish-white rune radiance swept out from his body. In an instant, a chilling aura was released from his body, causing the entire area to tremble. The bizarre aura spread out and the silver-haired man's hair scattered, dancing in the air. Woo! As the aura surged, grayish-white runes surged. Behind the silver-haired man, the silhouette of a savage, mutated beast fused together. Its entire body was grayish-white and its gaze sent chills down one's spine. Looking from afar, it was like a mutated beast that came from the underworld, causing one's hair to stand on end. "He's going all out. It seems like Old Man Yin Ming wants Xue Tianqiu to kill the members of Tianwu Academy without any obstructions. When the surrounding crowd saw this scene, their eyes flickered. They knew that the Nether-Yin old man had used his full strength right from the start. His motive was obvious. He wanted to delay the Medicine King so that Xue Tianqiu could kill the members of Tianwu Academy. Medicine King, Yi Wuming, other than saving others, let's see how capable you are. The silver-haired man fused with the silhouette of the mutated beast and released a chilling aura. The resplendent grayish-white rune radiance flickered and a faint roar could be heard. A surge of rune energy burst forth, covering the entire sky. His figure turned into a streak of light as he charged toward the Medicine King. Boom! As Old Man Yin Ming made his move, the energy in the surroundings fluctuated like huge waves in the vast ocean. The chilling aura suppressed the Medicine King. This Old Man Yin Ming isn't weak. He must have reached the pinnacle of Martial King realm. Seeing Old Man Yin Ming make his move, Third Fatty Wan, Hen Tian, and Hen Di were shocked. Xue Tianqiu also stared intently at the scene and didn't make a move on Tianwu Academy immediately. The Medicine King's face turned grim. His aura burst forth as he prepared to face the attack. Do you really think that I'm dead? Suddenly, an aged and gentle voice rang out from the sky. As the aged voice rang out, the sky silently changed color. In the night sky, it was as if a bright moon had suddenly descended and its brilliance shone down on the mountain range. A dazzling ball of light was like a bright moon floating in the sky. The dazzling light illuminated the mountain range, and a terrifying aura overflowed from the ball of light. The terrifying aura was so powerful that all the ferocious beasts in the mountain range trembled. At this moment, even Mu Mingqing, Xue Tianqiu, and the other martial kings had shock in their eyes. At this moment, Old Man Yin Ming, who had already made his move, had a drastic change in his expression. In that instant, the profound qi in his body had inexplicably turned sluggish. The dazzling grayish-white rune energy around him was also rapidly dissipating. This scene caused Old Man Yin Ming to be shocked. Uneasiness spread out from the depths of his soul. He abruptly raised his head and looked at the night sky. A moon-like radiance was floating in the sky. Faintly, an aged figure could be seen faintly within the ball of light. Boom! Within the moon-like ball of light, an energy handprint passed through space and descended from the sky. At this moment, the entire space seemed to have frozen, and the profound qi in everyone's bodies froze. Old Man Yin Ming was unable to move at all. He was wrapped by the handprint and slowly clenched. Qilal. As the spatial handprint clenched, the surface of the dark beasts around Old Man Yin Ming instantly became distorted, following which they gradually cracked and shattered. Everything was destroyed as easily as rotten wood. In the end, they turned into dazzling broken runes that filled the sky. Ah! A miserable scream came out of the silver-haired man's mouth. His silver hair danced in the wind, and his handsome face began to twitch and distort, as if he was enduring an unbearable pain. In the end, Old Man Yin Ming's face became incomparably old. The smooth skin on his body instantly withered. On his twitching, wrinkled face, deep horror and despair gushed out from his sunken eyes. Bam! The energy handprint slowly clenched, becoming tighter and tighter. The surrounding space also became more and more distorted. Finally, it completely shattered. A muffled sound rang out, and Old Man Yin Ming's body was directly crushed into pieces by the energy handprint. Hualala! Old Man Yin Ming's body was crushed. Terrifying energy swept out like a hurricane and bloomed in the sky like gorgeous fireworks. In the end, it came to an abrupt stop and was silently annihilated. Goo goo! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as horror gushed out from their eyes. A dignified martial king expert was crushed into pieces like an ant. Moreover, the person who did this did not even show his face. What kind of strength is this? Many experts looked at each other with shocked gazes. All of them were shocked from the bottom of their hearts. In front of such strength, a martial king expert was actually unable to withstand a single blow. Run, quickly run. The gray-robed man, the black-clothed old man and the others, whose eyes were as sinister as a poisonous snake, looked on helplessly as old man Yinming was crushed to death like an ant. Their eyes were filled with horror and fear. After being stunned for a while, they suppressed the fear in their hearts and immediately prepared to flee. Swoosh, swoosh. 7 figures immediately flew away. How would they dare to stay any longer? Since you dare to stir up trouble in the dark forest, you must pay the price. High up in the sky, the gentle voice of the old man sounded again. The energy handprint had yet to dissipate and suddenly stretched out. The light was dazzling, resplendent, and sonorous, and the pressure spread out. The energy handprint that blotted out the sky and covered the sun fell. It was like the descent of the heavens as it suddenly fell on the space around the 7 people who were about to escape, enveloping all 7 of them. Bang, bang, bang. As the energy handprint slammed down, a large area of space distorted to the point that it was about to collapse at any time. A terrifying pressure wreaked havoc within it. Resplendent runes passed through space and landed on the bodies of the 7 people with a loud bang. 7 muffled sounds rang out, and the 7 martial marquee experts were crushed into pieces and dissipated. Chi-chi. Within the bright moonlight, another rune light swept down from the sky. However, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, it enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. When the rune light disappeared, Du Xiaofu's figure also disappeared from the spot. High up in the sky, the dazzling light slowly disappeared. The bright moonlight disappeared like the setting sun, leaving no trace behind. The entire dark forest mountain range turned dark once again. Everything calmed down. It was as if the astonishing bright moonlight had never appeared. Gulp, gulp. After a long time, the sound of many people swallowing their saliva could be heard. Their bodies began to tremble as they recovered from their shock. Grandma Silverflower is still alive. She is still in the dark forest. The Medicine King looked at the sky. His eyes were also filled with shock, and he was unable to calm down for a long time. That must be Grandma Silverflower. She is still alive. The legend of Grandma Silverflower is true. She is still alive. In the sky, many people looked at each other in dismay. They were unable to endure the shock. Grandma Silverflower is still in the dark forest. Mu Mingqing, Shuatiancho, Wan Sampang, Hentian, Hindi, and the rest were unable to calm down for a long time. Where is Du Xiaofu? He is gone. Ouyang Shuang, who was shocked, recovered from her shock. She looked at Du Xiaofu, who had disappeared, and softly cried out in surprise. Chapter 325. Dark Night, Mountains, Dense Forest. Du Xiaofu only felt the profound qi in his body stagnate and his body being restrained. Faintly, he seemed to be able to sense a familiar aura. He did not know how much time had passed. It might have been 2 hours or even longer. When the restraining force on his body dissipated, Du Xiaofu's body fell on a mountain peak. Under the cover of night, he could faintly see the surrounding mountains. He should be extremely far away from his original location. Kid, there's a cause and an effect. You've planted a cause, so I'll give you an effect. Not long after, there will be a fortune that many people are willing to conceal their identities and wait for dozens of years. As for whether you have the opportunity to obtain it, it will depend on your luck. An aged and gentle voice rang out. High up in the sky, an aged figure swept across the sky. Senior, who are you? Why did you bring me here? Du Xiaofu stood up and raised his head to look at the aged figure. His eyes were filled with unbearable shock. From the voice just now, Du Xiaofu knew that the expert who brought him here was the expert who had crushed the Martial King old man Yinming to death. To be able to pinch a Martial King expert to death with a wave of his hand. How terrifyingly powerful was his cultivation? Why did such an expert bring him here? Du Xiaofu's heart was filled with doubts. Many years ago, someone started to call me Grandma Silverflower. If you had stayed there, I'm afraid that it would have been difficult for you to escape today. I don't want to interfere too much in the matters of the dark forest. Furthermore, I brought you here to give you an effect. Take care of yourself. As the aged and gentle voice rang out, she completely disappeared in the sky. Du Xiaofu stood alone on the mountain peak. He was still at a loss and was unable to recover his senses. He had personally witnessed the martial king old man Ming being crushed with a raise of his hand. The impact on Du Xiaofu was extremely great. That was a true expert. Is what Granny Silverflower said true? There will be an opportunity of fortune here. Du Xiaofu murmured after a while. His strength was still too weak. If there really was an opportunity here, he might be able to obtain a lot of benefits. Although he was doubtful, Du Xiaofu believed in Grandma Silverflower. If Grandma Silverflower wanted to harm him, with her strength that could crush even a martial king to death, he was no match for her at all. There was no need for her to beat around the bush to deal with him. Du Xiaofu was also worried about the safety of Ouyang Shuang, the king's scaled demonic tiger, and the rest of Tianwu Academy. However, when Du Xiaofu thought about how old man Yiming was dead, the gray-robed man and the others had been reduced to smithereens, and he had been taken away by Grandma Silverflower, there was no need for the Black Fiend sect, Myriad Cloud Pavilion, and Twin Hatred sect to deal with the Tianwu Academy students. Furthermore, they wouldn't dare to touch the Tianwu Academy students recklessly. Thus, Du Xiaofu was relieved. I'll wait a few days before returning to the academy. By then, the journey will be safer. After pondering for a moment, Du Xiaofu made up his mind. Grandma Silverflower said that an opportunity would appear in the vicinity soon. He would know about it after a few days. Furthermore, he reckoned that the dark forest wouldn't be peaceful. If he were to return to the academy now, he might encounter an expert along the way. If that were to happen, he would still be in trouble. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. It was better to wait a few days before returning. That person is so powerful. She's too powerful. Suddenly, Du Xiaoyao's voice sounded from Du Xiaofu's chest. Then, a faint golden light spread out, and Du Xiaoyao's macaque figure appeared. Her faint golden spirit eyes were glowing. She had also sensed the terrifying aura of Grandma Silverflower. She is very powerful. I must reach that level as soon as possible. Only then will I be a true expert. Du Xiaofu murmured softly. Dawn quietly caught up with the night. A dusky ray of light pierced through the hazy brown sky. Above the firmament, a dusky mist lingered in the distance. Then, the sky gradually brightened. In the eastern sky, there was a red light shooting out. It seemed that the weather today was pretty good. In the dark forest, the news of a martial king expert being crushed to death by an even stronger expert immediately spread out. The news was like a bomb that spread throughout the dark city and the dark forest. For many people, a martial king realm expert was already an expert that existed only in legends. If a martial king expert was placed in an empire, they would be an existence that controlled a region. They would be a true authority. Yet, a martial king expert was crushed with a wave of his hand. How shocking was that? Just how terrifyingly powerful was the one who did it? As various news spread out, Grandma Silverflower's name was also crazily spread. In the dark forest, ordinary people had never heard of Grandma Silverflower's existence. However, when some of the old people heard it, they were pleasantly surprised. Some even had reverence in their eyes. What's the background of Grandma Silverflower? Since when did such a terrifying expert exist in the dark forest? It's said that Grandma Silverflower has been in the dark forest for an unknown period of time. Over 100 years ago, there were many empires that worked together to take control of the dark forest. At the final juncture, the mysterious Grandma Silverflower appeared and killed the commanders of those empires. Ever since then, the surrounding empires no longer dared to touch the dark forest. That's not all. It's said that many major sects also wanted to touch the dark forest. However, the experts they sent were all killed by Grandma Silverflower without exception. Grandma Silverflower is the guardian of the dark forest. Those young Tianwu Academy students from last night were all terrifying, as expected of someone from the Tianwu Academy. It's said that the experts of the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects appeared yesterday. Such a scene is rare to see. The tea stall in the alley opposite the Mu family's trading company was exceptionally busy this morning. Many people returned from the dark forest early in the morning. They sat at the tea stall and discussed the matter from last night. As more and more people discussed the matter, the business of the small tea stall became better and better. Grandma, today's business is really good. The little boy at the tea stall busied himself happily. After earning some money, He would be able to buy new clothes for his grandma. When I'm free later, I'll let you buy some sweets today. The hobbling grandma looked at the smile on the little boy's face with a kind face. Her eyes were filled with benevolence and satisfaction. Opposite the alley, behind the Mu family's trading company, there was a huge courtyard. In a quiet hall, Mu Mingqing stood with his hands behind his back. Astonishment and surprise could be seen on his face. "Father, who is Grandma Silverflower?" In the hall, Mu Zhenghao asked his father. "Who?" Mu Mingqing turned around and took a deep breath. He said to Mu Zhenghao, "Grandma Silverflower is the guardian of the dark forest. She has protected the dark forest for countless years. Ever since I entered the dark forest, I have heard of Grandma Silverflower's existence. The surrounding empires and major sects are all eyeing the dark forest covetously. Outsiders think that they are afraid of the strength of the one pavilion, one fort, and two sects, so they don't dare to enter the dark forest easily. Actually, the real reason is Grandma Silverflower's existence. As long as Grandma Silverflower exists, they won't dare to come in and act presumptuously. This time, the Dark Nether sect's people came in because they didn't expect Grandma Silverflower to still be alive. If they knew Grandma Silverflower would interfere, they wouldn't have dared to come." In a vast hall in Dark City, Shui Tianqiu sat upright with a gloomy expression on his face. He said to Shui Yuming beside him, "Grandma Silverflower is too strong. Although she never interferes with the internal affairs of the Dark Forest, it is because of her that the one pavilion, one fort, and two sects didn't dare to act recklessly all these years. They maintained the peace on the surface." "Father, why did Grandma Silverflower take Du Xiaofu away?" Shui Yuming's eyes were gloomy as he watched the purple-robed youth disappear before his eyes. He couldn't take revenge for both the new and old grudges. His heart was filled with displeasure. The more he thought about it, the more uncomfortable he felt. "I don't know the reason. However, no matter what, based on Grandma Silverflower's character of not interfering with the internal affairs of the Dark Forest, Du Xiaofu is most likely still in the Dark Forest. Pass down the order. We must find that brat. Regardless of whether it is the treasure or the profound spirit heavenly vine, we must find him," Shui Tianqiu said coldly. Time passed slowly. The news of the Martial King realm expert being killed in the Dark Forest and Grandma Silverflower's appearance spread like wildfire. A few days later, the surrounding forces were shocked and fearful. Among the mountains, rivers surged and meandered. The mountains on both sides of the river were dark green. Mountains rose from the ground. The cliffs were steep, and the trees were lush, covering many buildings. Looking from afar, the mountains were densely packed with buildings. They looked ancient and majestic. I heard that Du Xiaofu, together with the general, Gu Xinyan, Gu Hua, and the others, entered the Dark City to snatch the mystical heavenly reaching vine from our Tianwu Academy. In the end, they attracted countless experts and killed many of them in a bloody battle, causing their name to spread across the dark forest. It's a pity that they didn't manage to capture Gu Hua. However, it's said that the profound spirit heavenly vine is already in Du Xiaofu's hands. However, Du Xiaofu was taken away by a powerful expert. His whereabouts are unknown. That powerful expert seems to be called Grandma Silverflower. She can easily kill martial kings. She's too terrifying. Regardless, the profound spirit heavenly vine did not fall into the hands of others. This time, the general, Gu Xinyan, and Gu Hua made a move. They have shown the might of our Tianwu Academy. It's a pity that Fireblade Baiming Feng has fallen. Discussions broke out in the Tianwu Academy. Some were sighing, some were shocked, and some were furious and sorrowful. The mountain range was filled with verdant greenery. At the peak of the mountain, there were a few strands of milky white mist. Occasionally, the cries of birds and the roars of beasts could be heard. In a natural cave, a faint golden radiance slowly receded, and a purple-robed young man appeared. Chi-Chi. Under the purple-robed young man's eyebrows, his eyelashes twitched slightly. His tightly shut eyes slowly opened and two faint golden radiances shot out from the depths of his eyes. They were like golden lightning. Boom! An ancient aura swept out from the purple-robed young man's skinny body, causing the entire cave to tremble. Who? Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, the faint golden radiance in Du Xiaofu's eyes receded. His gaze gradually became clear and a faint smile appeared on his resolute face. 11 chapters have arrived. I initially wanted to write more, but after not sleeping for an entire day and 24 hours, I can't take it anymore. 11 chapters is my current limit. As for today's update, Little You can only sleep for a night and will only be able to update at night. Brothers, please forgive me. Lastly, on account of Little Yu's hard work, I hope that all of you can support him. Most importantly, I would like to ask for the support of the original version. Due to the high number of pirated versions, the number of subscriptions has been decreasing. Thus, I really need the support of the original version. Only by reading the original version will I be able to receive fresh flowers. Lastly, I would like to request for fresh flowers and recommendation tickets to express my gratitude to everyone. Chapter 326. After several days of breathing in and out to regulate his breathing, Du Xiaofu had also recovered to his peak condition. Even the aura within his body that was on the verge of another breakthrough was suppressed and stabilized by him. After each round of compression and stabilization, Du Xiaofu could feel a sense of solidification all over his body. That feeling was a little like steel that had been tempered 100 times. Boom! Suddenly, the entire cave shuddered, as if there was an earthquake. What's going on? Du Xiaofu instantly got up and leapt out of the cave. Du Xiaoyao beside him turned into a beam of faint golden light, her speed even faster than Du Xiaofu's. Rumble. On the mountain peak, the surrounding mountain peaks were connected together. In the depths of the mountain range, the earth quaked and the mountains swayed faintly. Huge boulders rolled down from the mountain peaks, crushing many towering ancient trees like a flash flood. Whoosh! In the depths of the distant mountain range, there was also a dazzling light shooting up into the sky. However, all of this disappeared in a short period of time. Then, everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened at all. It seems like something is about to be born. Grandma Silverflower was right. Is this really an opportunity? Du Xiaofu looked into the distance. Everything that had just happened was definitely not simple. It seems like some seal is about to loosen. It's not far ahead. Du Xiaoyao's faint golden spirit eyes stared straight ahead. Du Xiaoyao, aren't you able to ignore all seals and talisman matrices? Can you go in and take a look? Du Xiaofu's gaze turned, and he immediately asked Du Xiaoyao. With Du Xiaoyao's talent, if there was really some kind of great opportunity or fortuitous encounter that was about to be born, he would be able to obtain it before anyone else came. Not all seals and talisman arrays, but all ordinary seals and talisman arrays. For some special seals and talisman arrays, even I can't do anything about them. Du Xiaoyao looked at Du Xiaofu. Her spirit eyes moved slightly as she said, the seal just now was only loosened, and now it has disappeared, so I can't do anything about it. However, as long as I can find it, I can enter. I reckon that the seal has already loosened, and it won't be long before it reappears. Then we'll wait for a few days. Du Xiaofu had a smile on his face. Granny Silverflower should not be lying to him. Since there was a great opportunity and fortuitous encounter, there was nothing to be afraid of waiting for a few more days. I'm so bored. I really want to eat some spiritual medicine. Suddenly, Du Xiaoyao retracted her gaze and looked at Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu glared at Du Xiaoyao, but had no choice but to take out a large amount of spiritual medicine. In the next few days, Du Xiaofu finally had some free time. He opened all the Qinkuan bags that he had plundered and sorted them out. The harvest inside was truly astonishing. Looking at the spiritual medicine that was poured out from the Qinkuan bags, Du Xiaoyao naturally did not hold back. She stuffed a large amount of spiritual medicine into her mouth, to the point that Du Xiaofu's heart began to ache. Then, Du Xiaofu could only turn his heartache into appetite, and continued to stuff a large amount of spiritual medicine into his mouth. He could not possibly let Du Xiaoyao eat until she was full while he was starving. However, Du Xiaofu also knew his current situation. He did not dare to eat spiritual medicine that could increase his Xian Qi, and could only choose spiritual medicine that could increase his mental energy. Fortunately, there was no one else on the mountain peak. If someone saw the two of them wasting spiritual medicine, who knew how much heartache they would feel. In the Chinquin bags that he had plundered, there were many martial techniques and the like. Du Xiaofu roughly checked them all, but he did not have much interest in them. Ordinary martial techniques could not enter Du Xiaofu's eyes. The current Du Xiaofu was no longer the youth who had to secretly search for martial techniques in the Du family's martial arts repository tower. However, Du Xiaofu did not look down on all martial techniques. Although he did not care for ordinary martial techniques, it did not mean that Du Xiaofu was an arrogant person. For example, Du Xiaofu had found 2 sets of martial techniques in the Chinquin bag on Guyu from the Ming Divine Court. He was very interested in cultivating them, but he did not have the time to do so. In addition, there was also the Xinyun Scarlet Flood Dragon's blood essence for bone and marrow cleansing. Du Xiaofu sorted it out, but he did not have the time to study the huge corpse. Using the blood essence on the Heavenly Beast list to cleanse bone and marrow cleansing did not have much time. He did not know when the great opportunity would appear, so Du Xiaofu could only put it aside for now. After sorting everything out, Du Xiaofu also immersed himself in cultivating his mental energy and comprehending the mysterious move. The mysterious move was vast and boundless. Every time he comprehended it, he would benefit greatly. It could even bring benefits to his martial veins. It had always been Du Xiaofu's most important thing. The mysterious move, the Golden Rocks cultivation method, and the mysterious incomplete cultivation method were all things that Du Xiaofu valued. Du Xiaofu was very clear that it was because of the mysterious move, the Golden Rocks cultivation method, and the mysterious incomplete cultivation method that he could have an advantage that was different from others. Therefore, as long as he had time, Du Xiaofu would also use it on comprehending and cultivating. Boom! A few days later, late at night, the surrounding mountain range shook again. Light soared into the sky, as dazzling as day. Huge rocks rolled down from the mountain peak, and in the deep forest, fierce birds and fierce beasts roared. However, everything soon calmed down and returned to normal. Continue comprehending. On the mountain peak, Du Xiaofu continued to comprehend the mysterious move. He was like a fish that had entered the ocean, swimming freely in the vast and boundless sea. Du Xiaoyao's small macaque body was surrounded by a faint golden light. Mysterious runes appeared, and a 5-fingered mountain peak was faintly discernible on the surface of her body. She was also immersed in some kind of cultivation. At night, the moonlight was like a ribbon, enveloping the mountain range. On a mountain peak, a burly man in a short robe was gazing into the distance. One of his left eyes was covered with an eye patch, while the other one was emitting a sharp light in the night sky. It was as sharp as a large knife. After waiting for so many years, the legend is indeed true. These decades were not wasted. The one-eyed man murmured softly. In a cave on a cliff, a tall and thin old man sat cross-legged. He looked into the distance at the flash of light and murmured softly, "Indeed, there is no smoke without fire. The legend is true." Dense forest, canyon, huge rocks. A gray-robed old man stood quietly, gazing into the distance. In his calm eyes, there were some fluctuations. He murmured softly, "It's finally about to begin." Just like this, a few days passed. In the cave on the mountain peak, Du Xiaofu's body was enveloped in a mysterious white light. The white light was like a divine light, and a powerful aura spread out. At this time, if one carefully sensed it, they would be able to detect that the aura on Du Xiaofu's body seemed to be faintly beginning to strengthen. The speed of the aura strengthening was extremely fast. If there were other spirit symbol masters nearby, they would definitely be dumbfounded and dumbfounded. At this time, about a few more days had passed. In the cave on the mountain peak, the white divine light enveloping Du Xiaofu's body had already become extremely dense, and a powerful aura was released. Ula, suddenly, a strange energy fluctuation rose up in the cave. Not long after the fluctuation spread out, a tyrannical aura also suddenly gushed out from Du Xiaofu's body, whose eyes were tightly closed. Boom! This aura, along with a powerful aura, was constantly increasing. In an extremely short period of time, an invisible bottleneck was broken through, and then the aura climbed to a new height. In the cave, The white divine light around Du Xiaofu's body rapidly increased along with the aura in his body. The rune light spread out, and the divine light fluctuated, appearing extremely ancient. After a long time, when the aura completely stabilized, the white divine light around Du Xiaofu's body gradually disappeared and disappeared into his body. Puff! As a long breath of turbid air was exhaled from his throat, his tightly closed eyes slightly opened. The light in his eyes became brighter and deeper, and then became clear and bright. A 4-star spirit symbol master. Feeling that the mental energy in his mind's Niwen Palace was more than several times stronger than before, Du Xiaofu's eyes could not help but reveal a smile. Du Xiaofu himself did not expect that in just half a month of wholeheartedly cultivation, he would be able to break through from the complete 3-star spirit symbol master level to the initial 4-star spirit symbol master level. What a powerful, mysterious, incomplete cultivation method. Du Xiaofu knew that his cultivation speed at the soul symbol master level was astonishingly fast. All of this was due to the effects brought about by the remnant of the mysterious cultivation method contained within the beast bone in the Du family's martial arts depository tower. After cultivating the remnant of the mysterious cultivation method, his mental energy simply skyrocketed. Of course, Du Xiaofu also knew that this big breakthrough had something to do with Du Xiaoyao snatching the spirit medicine from him more than 10 days ago. He had eaten a lot of spirit medicine that could increase his mental strength. A spiritual talisman master's most important spiritual power and qi were spiritual talisman masters. In terms of qi, Du Xiaofu had the solid foundation of a martial arts cultivator. His spiritual power had soared because of the cultivation of the mysterious incomplete cultivation method, which had made Du Xiaofu's spiritual talisman master level rise rapidly. This kind of breakthrough speed surprised Du Xiaofu, but more than that, he was happy. What cultivation method are you cultivating? It seems to be unusual. Du Xiaoyao suddenly appeared in front of Du Xiaofu. Her pale golden spiritual eyes stared closely at Du Xiaofu, full of curiosity. Chapter 327. I don't know what kind of cultivation method it is either, but it's not bad. Du Xiaofu stretched lazily, a smile on his lips as he slowly stood up. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu's eyes flickered. After breaking through to the initial level of a spirit symbol master, his mental energy had increased by quite a bit. He could sense that not far away, there was a fairly strong undulation. Du Xiaoyao had also sensed the undulation and leapt onto Du Xiaofu's shoulder, looking ahead and saying, "There seems to be someone fighting, and they're not weak either. Let's go take a look." Du Xiaofu hesitated for a moment. Then profound energy surged out from the soles of his feet and his figure immediately flew out of the cave. The mountain peaks were continuous, with clouds and mist swirling around them. Between the mountain streams, there was a faint sense of desolation and serenity. On the messy ground, there were many corpses lying haphazardly. All of them had been pierced through the chest by a sword. There were no less than 10 corpses that had been killed in one move. On the boulder, the last 2 middle-aged men stood. 2 middle-aged men, one tall and one short, one fat and one skinny. The tall one was skinny, the short one fat. However, the aura emitted from the 2 of them was extremely powerful. Their faces were filled with arrogance, as if they were high and mighty. Not far away, a slender and thin young man dressed in black robes stood quietly. In his hand, he tightly gripped an ancient green sword. The hilt of the sword was like a spirit python, the head of the python ferocious, as if it was alive. On the body of the sword, runes spread and flickered, shining with a dazzling brilliance, revealing a fierce and murderous aura. The black-robed young man lowered his head slightly, the scattered bangs covering his forehead, covering his eyes. His long hair was tied behind his head, with a few strands hanging over his shoulders. Dark red blood slowly dripped from the sword in his hand. If Du Xiaofu were here at this moment, he would definitely be able to recognize that this young man was the mysterious black-robed young man, Yi Piaoling, whom he had met in the Dark City. The serene python should not have fallen into your hands. You must return it to the sect. The tall and skinny middle-aged man looked at Yi Piaoling with a cold glint in his eyes. When his gaze landed on the rune treasure sword in Yi Piaoling's hand, There was a faint trace of heat in his eyes. Yi Piaoling slowly raised his head. Under his messy bangs, his eyes were sharp and piercing. The rune sword in his hand shook, and a fierce, murderous aura spread out. His thin lips were filled with arrogance as he looked at the tall and skinny man and said in a low voice, "The serene python is mine. You want to cover the sky with one hand, but you can't represent the sect. You still dare to mention the sect? You've committed a serious crime. Come back with me to stand trial. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy." The short and fat middle-aged man looked at Yi Piaoling coldly and said in a deep voice, "Don't think that you can fight against us just because you have broken through to the martial lord realm. Come with us obediently. Otherwise, we have the right to kill you on the spot." Serious crime? Everything was arranged by you. If it weren't for your pursuit, I don't think I could have broken through in advance. Now, the two of you are just pawns and cannon fodder in their hands. You are not qualified to kill me. Yi Piaoling looked at the two of them and said in an indifferent voice. His eyes began to sharpen as he waved his long sword and pointed it at the sky. The fierce, murderous aura on the sword kept fluctuating. "It seems that you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Then, I'll kill you on the spot today." The short and fat middle-aged man suddenly released his aura. In the vigorous aura, there was a monstrous coldness. The tip of his foot touched the ground, and his fat body rushed in front of Yi Piaoling like lightning. Boom! The short and fat middle-aged man waved his hand. His palm turned crimson and flowed with light. There were extremely special runes spreading out. The palm print immediately slapped towards Yi Piaoling. Buzz! Yi Piaoling moved. The dark qi around his body surged. Strands of runes flashed out from the serene python in his hand and wrapped around his body. A fierce, murderous aura suddenly burst out. In an instant, the sword radiance burst out and pierced towards the short and fat middle-aged man's palm. The short and fat middle-aged man was obviously very wary of the serene python in Yi Piaoling's hand. He didn't dare to touch it directly. He stepped sideways and dodged the sword radiance. His palm turned into a claw and immediately pressed towards Yi Piaoling's shoulder. Chila! The claw print seemed to tear the space apart. The terrifying aura spread out and made the space tremble. Yi Piaoling's eyes darkened. The serene python in his hand spun. The sword radiance cut across the sky and immediately intercepted the claw print. Chila! The sword radiance and the claw print collided. The energy runes were scattered. A majestic energy fluctuation emitted dazzling rune ripples. After spreading out, the ripples expanded rapidly like giant waves. The sound was sonorous and deafening. Ding-ding! The two separated as soon as they collided. The short and fat middle-aged man and Yi Piaoling staggered back at the same time. The short and fat middle-aged man's eyes were also filled with shock. "You're getting stronger. Unfortunately, you're going to die today." The tall and thin middle-aged man took the opportunity to appear behind Yi Piaoling. His eyes were filled with coldness and his aura was intimidating. An extraordinary long sword appeared in his hand. The runes soared into the sky. The sword radiance swept out like a rainbow piercing through the sun. It was majestic and violent and swept across the sky. "My life can't be taken away by the two of you." Yi Piaoling swung that serene python in his hand. A sword radiance soared into the sky and suppressed the sky. It directly collided with the two. The two sword radiances collided. The surrounding air was turbulent. Sand and pebbles were sent flying. The turbulent waves surged as if the space was about to be shattered. After the sword radiance, the two swords slashed across the sky. The sonorous sound resounded through the sky. Ka-ka! The tall and thin middle-aged man was pushed back. A tiny crack had appeared on the astonishing rune-long sword in his hand. The tall and thin middle-aged man was shocked. The long sword in his hand was also a practitioner weapon. Yet, a crack had appeared on it. If Yi Piaoling was a little stronger, the practitioner weapon in his hand would have been destroyed. No wonder it was the sect's treasure, that serene python. Yi Piaoling spat out a mouthful of blood. He hadn't been at a disadvantage just now. However, he seemed to have been affected by something all of a sudden. His face turned pale immediately. "Humph, it's already a miracle that you're still alive after being hit by the crimson palm. However, you're definitely going to die. Originally, there was no need for me to waste time looking for you. However, since the serene python is in your hands, I have to send you on your way so that the sect can rest assured." The short and fat middle-aged man sneered. He stood in the air, and his majestic aura exploded. The surrounding space was constantly fluctuating. The fingerprint in his hand was like a spear. It was wrapped in runes and rapidly swept across the sky, leaving behind a light shadow in the air. It pierced through the space and headed straight for Yi Piaoling. "If I don't die, I'll kill my way to the sect sooner or later and turn all of you into ashes." That serene python in Yi Piaoling's hand swept back. The sword light swept across the sky and blocked the fingerprint. In an instant, the light was dazzling. The energy spread out. Yi Piaoling spat out another mouthful of blood. He staggered a few steps back, and the rocks under his feet turned into dust. Suddenly, the sword light filled the sky as if it was blooming in the sun. The unparalleled sword light seemed to want to tear the space apart as it quickly enveloped and suppressed Yi Piaoling. 2 against 1. How shameless. Fight me one-on-one if you dare. Just as the sword light was about to envelop Yi Piaoling, a loud shout was heard. Boom! It was also at this moment that a golden light exploded and swept across the sky. Then, a golden palm print appeared like a cattail leaf fan and like a pair of golden wings. It swept across the sword light that filled the sky. A domineering and fierce aura shot up into the sky like a volcanic eruption. Whoosh! In an instant, the rune energy that filled the sky swept across the sky. The air shook violently. The surrounding rocks rumbled and rolled down as the earth shook. Bam bam! As the energy spread out, a purple-robed figure was forced back and finally landed in front of Yi Piaoling, who turned around. It was a thin figure with a resolute and determined face. There was a pale golden macaque on his shoulder. Who else could it be other than Du Xiaofu? That's strange. Is he only at the complete pulsation realm? The tall and thin middle-aged man's body only shook slightly. However, his eyes were filled with doubt and shock. The aura of the youth that suddenly appeared was clearly at the complete pulsation realm. However, the strength that he displayed just now was even stronger than an ordinary martial lord. Especially on the purple-robed youth, there was a domineering and fierce aura that spread out. It was as if he was suddenly facing a peerless, ferocious bird. His heart trembled for no reason. "It's you." Looking at Du Xiaofu, who suddenly appeared, Yi Piaoling's eyes were filled with surprise. "That's right. It's me. When I saw an acquaintance, I couldn't help but come out." Du Xiaofu looked at Yi Piaoling and frowned. "You're injured. How are you? Do you need help? What a powerful sword. Is it a practitioner weapon?" "I don't think so. I really want to eat it. However, it will probably stuff my teeth." Du Xiaoyao's eyes were fixed on the serene python in Yi Piaoling's hands. She licked her lips. Yi Piaoling looked at Du Xiaofu for a while and said, "They're both at the nirvana realm of martial lord. They're hard to deal with. If they were easy to deal with, I wouldn't be able to show my strength. I'll deal with one, and you deal with the other one." Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows and smiled. However, there was a serious expression between his eyebrows. The nirvana realm of martial lord wasn't something that a beginner martial lord could compare with. "All right." Yi Piaoling nodded at Du Xiaofu. A new aura began to fluctuate from his body. "Where did this kid come from? You're courting death." The tall and skinny middle-aged man looked at Du Xiaofu and shouted coldly. He couldn't let this kid ruin his plan. He dashed out, and the long practitioner weapon in his hand exploded again. He pointed it at Du Xiaofu, a martial lord who was at the lower nirvana realm with a practitioner weapon. His aura was imaginable. The sword radiance soared into the sky. Countless dazzling sword radiances exploded as if they wanted to tear the space apart. The aura suppressed the space and instantly enveloped Du Xiaofu. A practitioner weapon. Du Xiaofu, leave this guy to me. I want to eat a practitioner weapon. Suddenly, before Du Xiaofu could move, Du Xiaoyao moved. Golden light burst forth from within her pale golden spirit eyes. Her figure was like a golden rainbow as she rushed towards the sword aura that filled the sky. Along with the spread of the golden talisman inscriptions, She destroyed the sword aura that wanted to tear the space apart. Kacha, an unbelievable scene appeared. Du Xiaoyao opened her mouth and bit the practitioner weapon in the tall and skinny middle-aged man's hand. Suddenly, a crisp kacha sound was heard.